Welcome back to Only Talk Sports, and tonight we've got the Western Conference Finals live reaction between the Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves. The NBA, we're getting down to the last few games here, last few series. We got the Western Conference Finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, and then we got the finals to wrap up, and then the NBA's over, and we're going to have to wait for another season. And then obviously college football is going to be coming back around, college basketball, the NFL, before the NBA as well comes back also. But still, we got a massive series here. A lot of people are debating who is going to win this series. Most people believe that the Boston Celtics are going to end up beating the Indiana Pacers. I know there are a few people out there that think Indiana is going to win. You never know. It could well happen. But this series is hotly debated. I think at the end of the day, the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to end up winning the series. And I also believe Boston will as well. If you saw my video that I made predicting both of the Eastern Conference Final and the Western Conference Final. But I think this is going to be a fantastic series. We already saw the Boston Celtics Indiana Pacers game one last night. That game went to overtime. It looked like Boston was going to drop that game at home after they got out to a big lead against Indiana early in that game. But then down the stretch, Indiana came back. But then Jaylen Brown hit a big three to tie it up to send it to overtime. And then Boston held on in overtime. What a game that was. And hopefully this game will be just as entertaining as that one was. But so far, first minute has gone by, and there's no scoring, and Karl-Anthony Towns just went with a step-back mid-range jumper, and he could not get it to fall. Now we got Luka Doncic, who some people believe should have won MVP for how well he played this season, and he just hit a big two down low to get the scoring rolling on the board. 2-0 Mavericks, 10:30 to go in the first quarter. Luka Doncic is a fantastic player. He's kind of like the shorter version of Nikola Jokic, where he doesn't really impress you with his athleticism, but he can do so much, being able to knock down threes, knock down mid-range shots. The high degree of difficulty, it is unreal. But Minnesota, they're at home since they're the better seed. Can they get on the board? And Towns, he lays it in. That's a good shot for Towns. And Towns got to stay out of foul trouble. It helps that he has Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid, where he doesn't really have to worry about it if he does get into foul trouble. It's not like the Timberwolves are in bad shape if he's not in the game. But still, with him staying out of foul trouble, it really help out the Timberwolves at large, because then you can leave Naz Reid off on the bench or give Rudy Gobert a rest. Towns a good offensive player, just can't get in foul trouble. But the Timberwolves, they just scored again. So it's 4-2. T-Wolves in front. Dallas on the road. They have won some games on the road so far in this playoff series and earlier series that they have played in. So I think that Dallas can definitely have a shot to win on the road here. But it is such a tough environment because Minnesota, they have got a lot of fans now. They always had fans, but now that they're good, again, for the first time in 2 decades, that place is rocking up in Minnesota. Mike Conley, he drove in the lane and he laid it in. So it's 6-2. T-Wolves up by 4. Derek Jones, who's had a good playoff run so far with the Mavericks, playing some solid games. He kicks it over to Kyrie Irving, and Irving with the step-back jumper. Irving showing that even though he is now in his early 30s, he is still a really good player. Cat in trouble. Kicks over to Jay McDaniels, who's been playing well in the playoffs, getting into some scrums. Anthony Edwards missed a mid-range jumper. Now we got Luka Doncic bringing the ball up the floor. Over to Derek Jones with a behind the back. Loses the ball a little bit. Kicks to Irving. And Derek Jones and Kyrie Irving having a good connection early to start this one. We're all tied up at 6 apiece. 8:30 to go in the first quarter. In the Target Center. Mike Conley bringing the ball up the floor with Kyrie Irving guarding him, kicking over to Jay McDaniels, and Jaden McDaniels, that's a confident stroke right there, knocking down the three. A lot of people have issues with guys like Jaden McDaniels who, usually get into it with players, those type of guys, but you can't fault his effort. He plays really hard. Looks like Rudy Gobert got hit in the head a little bit. Hopefully he's okay. In the corner to Jaden McDaniels again, and he buries another triple. Back-to-back triples for Jaden McDaniels. He's got 6 quick points. 12-6, Minnesota in front. That's how quickly teams can score in the NBA. And a lot of people talk about Minnesota's offense not being one of the better offensive teams in the NBA. I still think they got a decent enough offensive punch, and their defense is really stellar. But Luka Doncic, he just laid it in for Dallas to cut this thing back to 4. Towns top of the key, kicks to Conley. Conley with Derrick Jones on him. He takes a triple, and it's off the mark. And the ball is saved by Daniel Gafford from going out of bounds. Daniel Gafford was a good acquisition for Dallas. Derek Lively was a good draft pick. The Mavericks have two underrated centers down low. Luka Doncic kicks over to P.J. Washington, who's been playing excellent since he's been traded from the Charlotte Hornets. He cannot hit the three there. Minnesota back up the floor. 7 to go in the first quarter. Anthony Edwards playing very well in the playoffs. Kicks to Towns, and the ball goes out of bounds, and it's off of Dallas. Good effort, though, from Kyrie Irving to try to save that one from going out of bounds. And with 6:54 to go in the first quarter, we got our first TV timeout. T-Wolves lead 12-8. We got Jackson in the chat. He says, what's up, Only Talk Sports Nation? Appreciate you for being here, Jackson. I think this is going to be a great game and a great series. I would be shocked if there's a lot of blowouts in this series because the way Minnesota plays doesn't really allow for too many blowouts unless they do such a good job on defense that they just hold the other team to barely any points. Kind of like the one game against the Denver Nuggets where the T-Wolves won 115-70. Realistically, that should not have happened. I mean, really, no NBA team today with the amount of offense that these teams have should be held to 70. But somehow the Nuggets were because that's how well the T-Wolves played on defense and how poorly the Nuggets played on offense. But Dallas, I feel like they're playing much more confidently on offense than Denver for some reason was playing in the series previously, and Dallas has some depth. So I would be shocked if they get blown out in any of these games in this series, but you never know. It just depends on if Minnesota's defense can play so well that they can really hold a team down. But I think this is a series that the contrasting styles of both teams, it's going to be interesting to see which team wins out because obviously Minnesota, they have a very weird format of having all those bigs down low, relying more on kind of almost old school basketball, even though Towns can shoot. But Gobert, Naz Reid, more of an old school game, especially Gobert. But it's been working out. And then you got Dallas, obviously Doncic and Irving, more of backcourt players. And they got bigs that, aren't some of the best in the league, but they're solid enough players. And plus, even though a lot of people talk about Dallas's offense, their defense isn't all that bad. I kind of look at it that Dallas, yes, they're better offensively than Minnesota. And yes, Minnesota's better defensively than Dallas, but each of the team's weaknesses, they're not really that weak at. Minnesota can score and Dallas can defend. So it's going to be very interesting. Both teams, they want it. Both teams have had some struggling times for a while. Obviously, Minnesota's been worse for longer. They had 2 decades of basically rough season after rough season, whereas Dallas, they were good with Dirk for so long, won a title, but then things started to trail off once his career ended. They haven't been as good recently, but then they got Doncic. He's been great, but they just didn't have enough around him. Now they've gotten some players like Gafford and P.J. Washington. They've added around with Irving as well to make this team much better now, and maybe a team that can't compete. I think a lot of people, when they're looking at the 4 teams left, there's arguments to be made for all 4 teams that they can win the entire thing. I feel like Boston is the best team in the NBA this year. I thought they were the best team last year, but unfortunately for Boston, they choked last season. Tatum's injury didn't help, but I do think that overall on paper, when you look at all these teams, I think Boston is the best team. But on paper doesn't win you games. On paper doesn't win you anything. You have to go out there and prove it. And I think Minnesota and Dallas have as good a shot as any to win. I know some people think Indiana. I think they're too young of a team. I don't know if they have enough on paper, on talent to get it done, but I think Indiana is a good team as well. So we'll have to see. I cannot wait to see what happens as we go further and further throughout the playoffs. Jackson says, if you love hot takes on college football, NFL, college basketball, and NBA, check out Only Talk Sports on these links, Twitter and Rumble. Definitely have a Rumble channel. If you'd like to follow me on Rumble, would really appreciate it as well. I post all my live streams and videos over there. And on Twitter, I usually post a few times a day about various sports topics. And obviously here on YouTube as well. If you would like the stream down below and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the show, I would really appreciate it. Definitely helps out the channel. We're getting closer and closer to 3,000 subs every single day. And I really appreciate all your guys' support. Couldn't do it without you. But Minnesota just knocked down a 3. I think it was Jaden McDaniels again. He is perfect from the floor, 3 of 3 from 3. He's got 9 points, helping Minnesota have an early lead here by 7 points. Doncic is trying to kick it down low to Derek Lively, nowhere to go with it. Back up top to Irving. Irving trying to drive into the paint, takes a tough step back too, and it's no good. Towns with the rebound, up to Conley. Conley with Derek Jones on him, over to Anthony Edwards. Shot fake in the corner to Jay McDaniels. Can he score again? Kicks to Gobert instead, and he's fouled. Not the worst foul in the world, because Rudy Gobert isn't the best free throw shooter in the West. He's not awful at the line, but he does struggle to shoot free throws at times. So sometimes when you got Rudy Gobert going down low and it looks like he's going to get an easy deuce, just foul him. I mean, it's not the worst decision in the world, but you don't want to get in foul trouble either hacking Rudy Gobert. And it's not really worth fouling him like it is Shaq, because Gobert is a much better free throw shooter than Shaq. First free throw is in for Rudy Gobert. Looked a little shaky, but he got it to drop. That's all that matters at the end of the day. But we'll see if Gobert can hit the second free throw, because Gobert, again, not one of the best free throw shooters in the NBA. He's competent enough, but he's a guy that you can foul late in the game, and he possibly will miss you one every now and then. Second one is off the mark, just like I said. So he went 1 for 2. Thought maybe he could hit them both. First one was a little shaky, but he could not get the second one to fall. But Minnesota's still up by 8. 16-8. You got Irving in the lane. Wow, what a play by Kyrie Irving. Going through traffic between two defenders. That's a good play for Irving. Still got it. 16-10. Now you got Gobert top of the key, over to Conley for 3, and it's way off the mark. Lively with the board. Up the floor to Irving. Stripped by Mike Conley. That's good defense by Mike Conley. He's saying that it should be off Dallas, but that's really good defense. Showcasing why the Minnesota Timberwolves are arguably, you could say, the best defensive team in the NBA. There's a lot of teams that are good at defense, but Minnesota is fantastic on defense. For a lot of teams, that would have been an easy layup potentially for Dallas, but Minnesota just not giving anything easy. Dallas trying to inbound the ball. Kicks to Irving. And Irving's shot is good. What a shot. The scoreboard keeps going weird. It's like 11 for Dallas, 9 for Dallas. Can't keep up with it. They finally got it fixed, but Dallas is 12 points. They're down by 4 after that Irving mid-range shot. McDaniels over to Towns. Towns with a shot fake to Gobert. And there is another foul. Definitely Dallas is not wanting Minnesota to get any easy points down low with Rudy Gobert. Again, I don't know if that's the best strategy in the world. You don't want to continue to foul him and give him points at the line, but with him being somewhat of a liability at the line, not a terrible free throw shooter, I can't really complain too hard, but it's so early in the game, you don't want to rack up fouls if you're Dallas. So we'll have to see if they continue to foul him as much as they are right now. These 2 early fouls. His first free throw, it went in again with a toilet bowl. Didn't look like it was going to go in, but it rolled in. They're showing that mid-range jump shot for Irving on the last possession. That was a really good shot from Irving. I think a lot of people fell out of favor with Irving in recent years for various reasons, but Irving's still really good. A lot of people have warmed back up to him again with him being in Dallas, and now with Luka Doncic, some of the other additions that they've made, he's playing well. But Gobert knocks them both down. So he's 3 of 4 at the line to start. So that's been proven not to be a smart strategy for Dallas to foul him. Inside, Dallas trying to get an open shot, but they're being guarded everywhere, and then a missed jump shot for the Mavericks. Looked like Josh Green took that jumper. Josh Green's a guy that a lot of people are still high on, think that he could end up developing into a better player, but he couldn't get that shot to fall there. P.J. Washington in the corner, he knocks down the triple, and I think there's a foul on the floor as well. So P.J. Washington just knocked down a 3 to cut it to 6, and there's a foul. So this could end up being like a 4 or 5 point possession here. 4:36 to go in the first quarter. I don't know what happened. It looked like guys got tangled up down low. But on the previous possession for Minnesota, Anthony Edwards, he knocked down a triple, and that's a good sign because when Anthony Edwards is getting his three-point shot going, then that's going to help him be able to drive as well. Always helps a guy that's a good driver getting into the lane. It makes it a lot easier when you can knock down that triple because then the defender has to respect that three-point shot. So very good for Minnesota that Anthony Edwards has knocked down an early 3. But it's 21-15. It could be a 4-point play here with Derek Lively knocking down the free throw, and he does. So there was a foul down low in addition to that 3-point shot. So that helps Dallas cut this thing to 5, 21-16. 4:30 to go in the first quarter. Anthony Edwards, top of the key. Going off the drill, he's got Lively on him. Now over to Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson's had a lot of fluctuating minutes during the playoffs this year for the Timberwolves. Some games he plays more, some games he don't, but he's an interesting player. He's got a funky looking three-point shot, but he is a guy that can provide a lift off the bench. And for whatever reason, Minnesota just chucked the ball way into the stands. That wasn't even close to connecting on that pass. Terrible pass. Now Dallas with the ball, trying to capitalize on the turnover. Lively down low, and there's a foul. 4:06 to go in the first quarter. I don't think that's on a shot. But still, there is a foul on the play. It says Dallas outscored by Oklahoma City by 17 points late in that game. Oklahoma City, the fact that Oklahoma City did as well as they did against Dallas, it shows how impressive it is that Dallas was able to end up winning the series. I mean, that's so impressive. Kyrie Irving with a layup. A lot of people thought the Thunder were going to win. I mean, I thought Dallas had a good shot to win because I was kind of in the camp that the Thunder were too young of a team. I felt that they still had more growing to do. That in a couple more years, I think Oklahoma City is going to be really dangerous. But right now, they just are so young, it's just going to take a little bit more time. They're already such a good team. Ball deflected into the backcourt, but it looks like they're going to call an over and back on Dallas. Josh Green went back to get it. But unfortunately for Dallas, it was tipped by the Mavericks. So that's going to end up being over and back. RC says, let's go T-Wolves. We got RC in the building. Appreciate you for being here. I definitely know that you are a massive Minnesota fan. You thought Denver was going to win. Everybody thought Denver was going to win the series. I can't believe that Denver choked it away like that. Kudos to Minnesota. Played well. Down the floor, really good play by the Dallas Mavericks. Not an easy play right there at all. It was Jaden Hardy. He's a very young guard for the Dallas Mavericks, getting that shot to go. And it looks like they have a shot to take the lead. They're running the floor. Kyrie Irving taking a deep three. It's off the mark. Very questionable shot by Irving. He can make that shot, but in transition, trying to take the lead, but probably not the best decision in the world. Anthony Edwards backing it out. Crossover dribble. Got P.J. Washington on him. He can win that matchup. Kicks to Towns. In the corner for three, and Towns is off the mark. P.J. Washington with the rebound. Now to Jaden Hardy. Over to Irving. Irving down the floor. Irving off the glass and one. What a play by Kyrie Irving. And just like that, Dallas is in front. Timberwolves had a pretty nice start to the game. Had a pretty good lead. They're up by 8 points at one point. But now Dallas has come all the way back to take the lead. And Irving will have an and one out of the timeout. But again, appreciate you for being here, RC. Always love when you're in the chat. He says, only talk sports. Well, this is a wow, surprise, surprise. You covering a game. Yeah, I know I haven't covered as many games this year. I want to, but it's been crazy. A lot of stuff going on. Haven't really been able to fit it in. But at least I'm here tonight. I've been trying to do at least one game a week. Been trying to anyway, but do appreciate you being here. I will do a few more streams before the season ends. Because, I mean, these games are going to be a lot of fun. Don't want to miss all of them. They're going to be a lot of fun. RC also says Jay McDaniels is on fire. He might want to blow on his fingertips. Yeah, I mean, he is absolutely on fire right now. Jay McDaniels is a player that when when his aggressive style of play and the way that he plays, when he doesn't, I guess, I don't know if you want to say let that get to his head, but like if he just plays within himself, he can be a really good player. He's getting so much better, and he's a guy that I feel like in maybe another year or two could end up being one of the better like third options in the league. Will he ever become like a number one star, even a number two star? I don't know, but he's already pretty solid. I mean, he's getting a lot better, but he gets into scrums, and I don't know if that's like a detriment to him or not, because yes, a lot of teams need a player like that. The Warriors, I mean, they've had Draymond Green forever, and we know what he's done. I mean, a lot of teams, you need that guy that's going to make life difficult on the opponent. You kind of see Andrew Nembhard for the Indiana Pacers having that same approach, but you can't go overboard with it either. Jay McDaniels, as long as he doesn't go overboard with it, his aggressive style of play, it will work in his benefit. Right now, he's playing very well for Minnesota. knocking down some early threes. RC also says the pace is up. Two younger teams can run. Not a lot of old folks out there this evening, unless you count Mike Conley, to a lesser degree, maybe Kyrie. Absolutely. And the way Mike Conley and Kyrie Irving still play, they don't look like old guys. I mean, Irving, the way he's playing at times, especially now that he's got, I wouldn't say a new lease on life, but just the fact that now he's on a good team, all the dramas behind him. Kyrie Irving's he's back to playing almost like his Cleveland Cavaliers self. Yes, it's not the same. I'm not going to go out there and say it's the exact same, but he's still really, really good. He hasn't fallen off like Russell Westbrook. And then Conley, yes, he's even older, but he's still good. A lot of people thought after, the Utah Jazz stint, Utah was struggling after, they got rid of Gobert and they got rid of, Donovan Mitchell. A lot of people thought Conley, maybe wouldn't be as good, but he's still good. And even Rudy Gobert, I mean, he's been in the league a while too. I think he's like 30, but there's just not a lot of older players on either of these teams. And it makes it fun to watch. I mean, even the Indiana Pacers, they're fun to watch, easy to root for because they have so many young guys. They're fun to watch. The Celtics as well, even though a lot of people don't like the Celtics because it's kind of like the Dallas Cowboys effect of being, like the brand team in the NBA along with the Lakers. But still, these series are going to be fun. That Boston-Indiana game, that would have been fun to do the live stream last night if I could have done it. That was a fun game. I mean, both teams were just running up and down the floor. There was barely a break. I thought Boston was done for, like they were history. And then Jaylen Brown saves the day with that ridiculous three. Like Pascal Siakam literally couldn't do any more on that play to defend. I mean, he was all over Jaylen Brown, and he still hit the three. I mean, a play like that just goes to show that good offense beats good defense any day of the week. No matter how good Minnesota plays on defense, the other team is still going to score points, except the Nuggets when they only scored 70 in that one game. But they still scored 70, but it was terrible. 23-21 after Kyrie knocks down the free throw, 2:10 to go in the first quarter. Naz Reid kicks to Kyle Anderson. Now over to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's been a solid player off the bench for the Timberwolves, and Kyle Anderson with a little mid-range floater. Not a bad shot, showing the mid-range shot isn't dead. And we're all knotted up at 23. Under 2 to go in the first quarter. Derek Lively kicks to Luka Doncic, who's back in the game. Doncic thought about a step back. Kicks over to Derek Jones for the slam dunk. What a play by Doncic. Showing that he can pass. Maybe not like Jokic, but he can still pass. That was a really good play. Gobert over to Naz Reid. Two-man game. Kicks to Kyle Anderson to the corner with that funky-looking three-point shot. And Kyle Anderson knocks it down. He's got one of the most unconventional-looking three-point shots in the modern-day NBA. Because a lot of guys, like, they've cleaned up their shot. Like, these players, they work in the gym with shooting trainers to make their shot, as easy to possibly make the shot as possible. As pure and fluid as it can be. Kyle Anderson, it's a weird-looking shot, but he can knock it down. Dallas scores again to get the lead, 27-26. Timberwolves with the ball. Nickeil Alexander-Walker back to Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson slips, but he regains form, and he knocks down another shot. What's going on with Kyle Anderson? He's got 7 points. I mean, he usually comes off the bench and provides a little bit, but Kyle Anderson playing pretty well right now, being aggressive. And you got to be. I mean, the thing is, when you're a guy and you're coming off the bench and you only get like 10 to 15 minutes, usually a game, you got to take advantage of that time. You can't just come into the game and sit in the corner. And Kyle Anderson, not doing that in this game. Playing very well. And the more role players that step up in games, the better chance your team's going to have of winning because it's going to put less pressure on the stars to have to score 40 points to win. Top of the key, Gafford finds Josh Green. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Doncic down low, kicks in the corner to Jaden Hardy. Hardy with a step back too, and it's off the mark. Not a bad-looking shot there, even though it was a tough look. Just couldn't get it to go. And then Naz Reid down the floor off the glass, taking contact. Good play by Naz Reid. And then Naz Reid with the steal. You cannot get lax. You cannot relax against the Timberwolves. They're going to bite you every time on defense. Dallas with a big error there. Anthony Edwards kicks to Naz Reid in the corner. Back to Edwards. He almost loses the basketball, but he saves it from going out of bounds. Edwards for 3, and Anthony Edwards knocks it down. Almost lost the ball out of bounds. Turns around and cashes in on a big 3. What a shot. Less than 5 seconds left in the first quarter. Doncic, nowhere to go. He's going to have to chunk up a 3, and it was pretty close, but it was still an air ball, and that is the end of the first quarter. 33-27, T-Wolves up by 6. Dallas played pretty well for the vast majority of that first quarter, but they kind of slipped a little bit in the final minute, and that's helped Minnesota regain the lead. We got 3 quarters to go, and they should be a lot of fun. It was a pretty good first quarter. Jeff is here. Appreciate you for being here. He says, howdy, only talk sports. I made it. Haven't seen you in a while. Appreciate you for stopping by. He also says, what's up, Jackson, as well. And then Jeff says, Dallas is looking pretty good so far. Dallas is a good team. I mean, they're finally, I can legitimately say, a good team. And it just goes to show you that, as a GM owner, as a coach, whatever, like all the ones involved with bringing in, players, building a roster around stars, it goes to show that you have to make moves. You have to bring in guys that are going to be able to help your main stars. When you look at like the Oklahoma City Thunder, when they had Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, after James Harden left, they just did not have enough around those two to ever win anything. They never built around them, and then they all left. And obviously the Thunder are doing just fine now. They got all these young stars, but it was many rough years for them. And then you look at like the Trailblazers, had CJ McCollum, had Damian Lillard, never built around him. They continued to be mediocre. Had like one good season. But the thing is that Dallas, if it had just been Kyrie Irving and it had just been Luka Doncic, and that's about it, like the next best player isn't that good like it's seemingly been recently the past couple years, things just never would have gotten off the ground for Dallas to ever be able to possibly contend for a title. Are they going to be able to win a title this year? I mean, it's going to be hard to win this series. And if they do end up having to face Boston, if they somehow do beat the Timberwolves, that's going to be hard as well. But this is the best Dallas has been in many years. And it's all because of the role player, additions. PJ Washington, even though it's hard to call him a role player because he's blossomed to a really good player. But he's a good third option. And then you got Daniel Gafford. Lively's a good draft pick. Derrick Jones. It's just a more complete roster than it's been in a while. And if they can get guys like Josh Green and Jaden Hardy, if some of these really young guys can get better, that's only going to add to the team. And if those guys don't get better, then they're going to have to make probably another move. Maybe another draft pick has to hit like Lively, or maybe they can, make a smaller trade for like another veteran or like another younger guy with potential on the bench, just to add to the depth of the team so they can possibly win one. As I've seen a lot of people, and even, people that I know that have said that Dallas, this might be one of their best chances to do it if they don't actually add more to this team, because you got the Thunder, being such a young team, they're only going to get better. And then you talk about teams like Indiana and the Orlando Magic. There's so many young teams in the NBA right now, like Dallas. Yes, Doncic is younger. Most of the team's younger, but Irving, I mean, how much longer will Irving be good? So it's going to be interesting. All 4 of these teams, you can make an argument they need to win. Boston, I mean, even though the franchise itself doesn't need a title, they got 17 titles in their bag. But Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they haven't won one yet. And until they get that monkey off their back, a lot of people are just going to be continuing to, I guess, just drill into people's heads that Tatum and Brown aren't it. Tatum and Brown aren't it because they haven't been able to win a title. Do I think that's necessarily fair? No, because I think they're great players. But it is an argument that is somewhat fair because of the fact that they do have a lot of talent on those teams and they just haven't really been able to get it done yet. They haven't been able to win a title when they are very well capable. But Dallas just knocked down a 3 to cut into the lead by half. So it's 33-30. T-Wolves up by 3 early second quarter. Mike Conley pushing off a little bit on Derrick Jones. Gets away with it. Back from Conley to Gobert over to Jaden McDaniels for 3, and his 3's good. Jaden McDaniels cannot miss from outside right now. He's got 12. 7 made 3s for the T-Wolves. So Dallas is very lucky not to be down by too much with the amount of 3s that they've hit. Doncic, he turns the basketball over. Good steal by Conley. Conley thought about the 3. Kicks down low to Gobert, and there's a foul. Foul on the floor. It could be on a shot. I mean, that's one of those that it's not really a shot because of the fact Gobert, I mean, he wasn't even close to like aiming at the rim, but he flailed. So it does look like they're going to give him the foul on a shot. Jaden McDaniels, first 9 games of these playoffs, 5 of 23 from 3. Last couple games, he's 10 of 13. What a turnaround for Jay McDaniels. He's on fire right now. And that helped the Timberwolves by a lot to knock off the Nuggets. I mean, if Jay McDaniels was playing like he was earlier in the playoffs, maybe they wouldn't have beat the Nuggets, but he was playing better. We know what Anthony Edwards was doing. The bigs down low. So Jay McDaniels is a big piece to what the T-Wolves are doing in these playoffs. Gobert, his second free throw is up, and it is off the mark because his first one went. So he split again. So right now he's 5 of 7 at the line. Or I think 4 of 6, actually, if I'm correct. It's either 4 of 6 or 5 of 7. He's missed a couple, but overall, Gobert not too bad. And then you got Daniel Gafford with a big dunk down low. Nice pass from Doncic. So it was 37-32, 5-point game. And Naz Reid trying to do too much with it. Turnover. Doncic with the steal. Derrick Jones back to Doncic. Reid on him. Step back three from Luka, and it's too strong. But it's tapped back out. Mavs with the basketball. Gafford top of the key. Over to Doncic. 5 on the shot clock. Luka in the lane. He kicks to Gafford. Looked like he should have gone up with it, but he does not. And then it's a missed shot. Doncic should have went up with that one. Jaden McDaniels in the corner. 3 is off the mark for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and the ball is out of bounds off the Dallas Mavericks. That's a tough break. That's a really tough break for Dallas. I mean, you're fighting so hard on that possession, and then the ball ends up going out of bounds off you. Naz Reid, top of the key. 5-point game. Under just over 10 minutes to go. Looks like they've stopped play. I'm not exactly sure for what. Was there another foul? I think there was. I think they called a foul on Dallas. I guess guys got tangled down low, and usually they're going to call it on the defender. I guess that one was on Derrick Jones. T-Wolves to inbound. Conley driving into the lane, kicks to Naz Reid. Not a great pass, so Reid fumbled it. Over to Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He takes a 3, and it is way short. Gobert almost with the board, but Dallas ends up with it. Hardaway Jr. with the rebound. Dallas has some of their subs into the game while Irving's still on the bench. Doncic going up with it. His shot in and out. He had it but couldn't get it to go, and it looks like Naz Reid saved it from going out of bounds. Good play by Naz Reid. In the corner, Conley over to Jaden McDaniels. McDaniels looks like he just barreled over a Dallas Mavericks player. Is that a charge? It has to be, right? Jaden McDaniels driving to the lane. Like a foul on Dallas, though. A Dallas player wrapped up Jaden McDaniels. Hardaway Jr., that's a foul. But he bowls over Dante Exum, who's been in the league for a while. Older player. Doesn't play too much for the Dallas Mavericks, but he got barreled over on that play. Dante Exum with the basketball, top of the key, over to Daniel Gafford. Back to Exum. 9:10 to go in the second. Exum driving in to Gafford. Gafford gets knocked down to the ground, and there's a tie-up. No foul is called. Did Gafford just slip? Or, I mean, it looked like he might have got fouled on that play. No call, but they're letting some contact go. I get it's the playoffs. You don't want to call ticky-tacks, but you don't want things to get out of hand either. Irving coming back into the game. Exum, after a short stint, didn't really do that much outside of taking some punishment on that charge. And Karl Anthony Towns is re-entering the game for the T-Wolves, along with P.J. Washington for the Mavericks, as Derrick Jones goes to the bench. So some subs being made. I mean, you gotta bring in subs, man, when these guys get tired, because with the amount of running up and down the floor these guys are doing, even the younger players get tired, even though they probably could play a full 48. Gafford easily wins the tip, but then it gets tipped over to Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels down the floor, and he lays it in. Jaden McDaniels cannot miss in this game. Outside of that offensive foul, he's been playing very well. 8:57 to go in the second quarter. Another timeout on the floor. Looks like it's taken by the Mavs. 39-32. RC says how we contain Kyrie. I think Kyrie heard me call him hold, and now he's on a rampage. Only Talk Sports. That's hilarious, RC. I mean, it's funny how you know good and well that the players can't hear us, But you do feel that sometimes because I've done it before where I've said like, oh, this player's not playing well or this team isn't playing well. And then right after I say it, then they start playing well. So it's like literally, it's like a subliminal message. Like they have to hear you. That's hilarious, RC. Jeff says Kyrie is a lot of fun to watch. Absolutely. And I mean, I know that I think more people are taken for granted these days that some of these guys are, older and they're still really good because like we've seen Tom Brady, be 45 years old and he was still playing quarterback in the NFL, like LeBron James, how he's 39 years old and he's still playing as well as he is. It's so impressive. But I feel like because those guys played or have played or are still playing at such a high level at the age that they are, it's making it where more people are taking for granted, just the fact that some of these guys are playing so well even in their earlier 30s. Because if you go back to like the older NBA, all of the players usually aged out around 35. And like once they hit like 30, I mean, they like all of the greatest stars in the past in the NBA, you could see a decline. You could see a decline. They were not as good in their 30s. Even Michael Jordan to an extent. I mean, he was still really good. But still, I just feel like today, so many guys, maybe it's because of the equipment and like even load management, just like, they're eating better food. I don't know. Just a lot of stuff. The doctors, whatever. Just all this stuff that's helping these guys play longer. They're watching what they eat, training hard all the time. Probably more so than even then. Helping these guys play longer. But you look like Russell Westbrook. The way Russell Westbrook is playing right now is how a player at his age would probably have played at back in the 80s at his age, maybe even worse. But now that Russell Westbrook is kind of one of like the stars of the NBA of the modern times that has declined pretty hard compared to what he used to be, people are trashing him. He's like, oh, he's Russell Westbrook. He's no good anymore. And it's like Westbrook's still fine. He's okay. He can still play in the league, but it's because of guys like Irving, and especially LeBron James and others that haven't really aged out and they're still playing well even into their 30s, and even like Kevin Durant and other players that it makes people take it for granted. And the ones that don't really continue to play well, I feel like that's why people trash them more. It used to never be this way, but it is now. But I mean, I get it. It is what it is. But I put a poll in the YouTube chat who you guys think is going to win game one. And there's been 10 votes so far, and it is split 50-50 between the Mavericks and the Timberwolves. And to be completely honest, that's how I feel about the series. I'm split on this series. Like, I legitimately thought hard about who I was going to pick to win this series. And it literally came down basically to, I feel like the Timberwolves are just a little bit better of a team. And that fact that they have the home court advantage 4-3, that I feel like maybe they'll get it done in 7 games. But I think this series legitimately could go either way. It's going to be very close. It's going to be very close. Both teams are playing really well. I think Dallas is going to give it 110% in this series. But Minnesota's defense, they're playing so hard, and they just knocked off the defending champs as well in the Nuggets. Even though the Nuggets weren't as good this year, that just made me lean Minnesota just by a little bit. But I think it's going to be a hotly contested series. 8:46 to go in the second quarter. Irving to inbound to Lively. Over in the corner to P.J. Washington, and he let it slip through his hands. Ball must have had a little bit of butter on it on that one because he was not paying attention. It looked like it went right through his hands. But that's just a rare mistake for P.J. Washington. He's been playing very well, but can't have mistakes like that, especially down 7 on the road. Cat with the basketball trying to drive, and I think they call a foul on P.J. Washington. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, there was some contact there, but when a guy's backing a player down trying to get into the lane, maybe it was a 3-second violation. I think it was because they got Conley at the line. It probably was a 3-second violation. But Conley missed the free throw. Mike Conley, pretty good free throw shooter. Not able to knock it down there. I sometimes feel it's harder to make free throws when you're the only one at the line. When there's no one else around you, it's just because you're used to shooting free throws with the other players, on both sides of you. And when no one's there, it can be tough. Gobert out to Jaden McDaniels, and finally Jaden McDaniels misses a 3. He had been perfect before that shot. Hardaway Jr. to P.J. Washington, off the mark. The offense has dried up a little bit last couple minutes for both teams, specifically Dallas. Both teams still playing hard, but no points are being scored. Kyle Anderson, almost a travel. Probably in college it would have been. NBA, they never call travels anymore. And I think there's a foul on P.J. Washington this time as Karl Anthony Towns is driving it. He doesn't agree. I mean, they've been letting some contact go in this game, but I guess they felt that one was a little bit too much, but didn't look too bad. Anthony Edwards coming back into the game for the T-Wolves. He's got 8 points, 4 boards, 3 assists. He's 3 of 4 from the field. Hit a couple big-time threes in this game already. Him and Jaden McDaniels outside shooting is why Minnesota's in front. I mean, Dallas, they've only hit 2 threes. Minnesota's at 8. It's very tough to overcome when the other team is hitting a lot more threes than you. So Dallas is going to have to find a way to start knocking down some outside shots if they can. Kyle Anderson with the basketball over to Naz Reid. Jaden McDaniels with the basketball, Doncic on him. Over to Kyle Anderson in the mid-range, and Kyle Anderson with the little floater. It is good, 41-32. Kyle Anderson, that's the type of a play that he is so good at, just because no one's paying attention to him. He's not one of those players that you really defend all that hard because you don't really think of him as a threat. But then it's like he can get you those mid-range floaters, knock down that occasional outside shot, and before you know it, he can have 15. It's not consistent. He does it every game, but Dallas isn't really covering him, so he's taking advantage of the soft coverage on defense. Anthony Edwards thought about the three, decides against it. Kicks to Jay McDaniels over to Naz Reid, and Naz Reid's three is off the mark. 7 to go in the second quarter. Kyrie Irving down the floor, and he finally gets a shot to go for the Mavericks. It had been around 4 minutes without a made basket for the Mavericks. But finally, he ends that cold streak. Anthony Edwards taking a three, way off the mark, and P.J. Washington ends up with the basketball. Doncic with the ball, 6:40 to go in the second quarter. 41-34, T-Wolves lead by 7. Doncic off the dribble, inside, off the glass, and one. What a play by Luka Doncic. Unreal. The last play by Irving was really good. I mean, it just shows the burst and speed he still has to get down the floor and beat everybody on defense. And then Doncic, just being able to take contact. He is one of the best players at being able to take contact and still finish the shot. 6:32 to go in the second quarter. His free throw is up, and it is good. So it's 41-37. Dallas has cut it to 4. So despite Minnesota shooting the basketball a whole lot better than Dallas in this game, Dallas is hanging around. Irving's got 15. Doncic has 12, but they need some of the other players to step up. Kyle Anderson in the mid-range, doesn't know where to go with it, finally finds Anthony Edwards top of the key. Edwards gets a little mini screen from Anderson. Nowhere to go. Back to Anderson. Takes a little mid-range shot, and Kyle Anderson again. 43-37. I'm telling you, Dallas needs to defend this guy. Can't keep leaving him in the mid-range. He's making him pay. And then Derek Lively on the other end, showing off all that skill set. What a play. 43-39. The offense is starting to come back to life for both teams. 5:50 to go in the second quarter. Anthony Edwards with the basketball. Derek Jones on him. He leaves him. Anthony Edwards couldn't cash in on that three, but questionable decision by Derek Jones to give him that open shot. Kyrie Irving, nowhere to go. Kicks to Doncic. Doncic in the lane, gets by Edwards, and he goes off the window. What a play by Luka Doncic. How does he do it? He took a lot of contact on that play, but somehow he was able to go up with that thing. 43-41, 2-point game, 5:30 to go in the second quarter. We got a good one. Stephen Cherry says Dallas has 2 elite players. Minnesota has 1 rising star. Mavs win the series 4-2. Appreciate you for being here, Stephen Cherry. And I did think about that. I really did. And if you did see my video talking about the conference finals series, Eastern and Western, that was a big reason why I almost did pick Dallas, because Dallas legitimately has 2 stars. Doncic, arguably top 5 player in the NBA, if not top 2 or 3. I mean, he's that good. And then Irving, despite his age, is still really, really good and is probably a top 15 player still. And then you look at Minnesota, and even though Karl Anthony Towns is a good player, I don't really think anybody's calling him a star. Gobert, great defender. Deserves all the accolades he gets on that side of the ball. But on offense, he's limited. Conley's older. It's just Edwards. It's Edwards and then a bunch of other guys that are really good. Jaden McDaniels as well stepping up. But Dallas is the 2 stars, and they got a lot more depth than they used to have. But I don't know. I'm just leaning T-Wolves by a little bit. I'm just leaning T-Wolves. I feel like it really could go either way. And I know it sounds like a cop-out answer because I did pick the Timberwolves to win the series, but I have it going to 7 games. I mean, it's a coin flip. I mean, you can easily convince me that the Mavericks are going to win this series just like the Timberwolves. It's not like Boston, Indiana. With that series, even though Indiana almost won game 1, but in that series, prior to the series anyway, you would have had to have done a lot of convincing, to get me to think Indiana would win. Whereas over Boston, whereas this series, either way, I mean, I believe you. I mean, it's going to be a very close series, I think. RC says this will be another dig and claw and beat him up, punch him down type of game. Absolutely. RC, I mean, it's just the way that it goes. I mean, we're at the point where when you lose, like whenever you lose, it's tough. Like losing in the play-in tournament, it's tough on those teams. Losing in the first round, it's tough on those teams. But when you've made it so far, when you've made it to this point, you've won the first 2 series. All you have to do is win 2 more, and you've got the crown. When you get this far, the stakes are so much higher, and losing is so much more tough of a pill to swallow. So that makes these teams play even harder. And by this point, the teams are better usually that are left. I mean, even Indiana, I mean, you got to give them credit despite the fact that they've had help with the Bucks having injuries. And then obviously the Knicks suffering tons of injuries, which helped Indiana win both those series. But they're still good. But all these teams left, they're really good teams. So they're going to do everything they can to win. So I agree 100% RC. Jeff says, what a crazy game. It's been wild. I mean, it settled down a bit after the craziness of the first quarter, but I'm sure before the game's done, things are going to ramp right back up. We got 4 quarters. We got over 2 quarters left. So, wild things are going to go down. Jackson says, what's up to Jeff? And Jeff says, good, doing good. How about you, Jackson? I'm glad you guys are doing really well. RC says, Wolves are doing exactly what I would do. Only talk sports. Put Jaden McDaniels on Luka Doncic. His link will bother him. I mean, there's just not much else you can do, really. I mean, I feel like you have to put a guy that isn't like the best offensive player in the world on a star player, because if you put a really good offensive player on a really good offensive player, sometimes they can tire each other out. And especially when you talk about like Anthony Edwards, you don't want to put Anthony Edwards on him because that's just a mismatch. So Jay McDaniels, that's probably the best player that you could put. I agree, RC. That's definitely a good observation for sure. Nas Reed knocking down a 3 at the top of the key. What a shot. Nas Reed is a good player, deserves 6th man of the year. There's a lot of players that you can make an argument for, but he played very well this season for Minnesota. Derrick Jones driving into the lane, couldn't get the shot to fall. PJ Washington over to Kyrie Irving. Irving driving in the lane with a float. What a shot. Nice floater by Kyrie Irving. Unbelievable. Such a good play. 4:40 to go in the second quarter. Anthony Edwards with the basketball into Kyle Anderson into the corner to Towns. Towns knocks down the 3. Here comes the offense again. And man, Minnesota's on fire. Who said this team wasn't good at offense? Everybody's like, this team's not good at offense. They're on fire from outside right now. They can't miss. Luka Doncic off the dribble, driving into the lane. Inside to Lively. What a pass. What a pass by Derek from Luka Doncic to Derek Lively. You can't beat that. 49-45. And see right there, Dallas, even though Minnesota's playing so well on offense, Dallas is good enough offensively to keep up with them despite Minnesota being such a good defensive team. Towns down low. He can't go up with it, and Lively takes it from him. What a play. 3:50 to go in the second quarter. Irving driving into the lane, and then a turnover. Good defense by the T-Wolves. Kyle Anderson to Anthony Edwards. Over to Nas Reed. Misses the three that time. Can't hit them all, but had a really good look. It seems like Dallas is giving them some pretty good looks, though. That's helping Minnesota out. P.J. Washington, he can't respond with a three of his own. Anthony Edwards with the board. Now they're settling it down. It's been enough running of the floor, I guess. Got to catch your breath. Anthony Edwards, 10 seconds on the shot clock. 3:10 to go in the second quarter. Derek Jones on him. Edwards trying to get by Lively. Kicks to Jaden McDaniels in the corner, and Jaden McDaniels keeping the hot streak going. What a play. 2:50 to go in the second quarter. Luka Doncic with a step back. It's off the glass. Couldn't get it to fall. But then Derek Lively doing the dirty work, saving that one. Doncic misses a three. Derek Jones with the putback. Looking for an and one. He's not going to get it, but that's a really athletic play by Derek Jones. 52-47. Both teams playing hard. Under 2:30 to go in the second quarter. Naz Reid with the basketball. Over to Anthony Edwards. To Jaden McDaniels. To Kyle Anderson with the weird-looking three-point shot. He can't get it to fall. Edwards almost with an insane putback, but he lost it. He saves it, though, for going out of bounds. Anderson back to Edwards. Too deep in the paint, and then Cat. Karl Anthony Towns with a nice layup. 54-47. Then down the floor, Kyrie Irving. How in the world did Kyrie Irving catch that? Kyrie Irving catches an insane pass and then still had the wherewithal to lay it in. Unbelievable. 54-49. Now Edwards back the other way. This game's getting crazy again. I knew it would. Jaden McDaniels in the corner. He's knocked down all those threes, but this time he gets in the lane, misses the shot, gets it back, and he dunks it home. Jaden McDaniels with the effort. What a play. 56-49. I feel like I keep saying what a play, but it's unbelievable how good a basketball we're seeing from both these teams right now. Luka Doncic over to Derek Lively to Derek Jones. P.J. Washington with an insane reverse. Unreal. P.J. Washington in the corner getting the basketball, driving to the hoop, and going up with an insane reverse layup. 56-51. And Jaden McDaniels sticking with that play, though, and getting the follow-up dunk. That was a good play as well. It's all about effort. If you give 110% every single play, good things are going to happen. 1:15 to go in the second quarter. We're almost done with this frenetic first half. P.J. Washington, he's only got 5 points, 3 boards, and a block. But I'm sure he'll start to get some more points in the second half. His free throw is up, and it is good. 4-point game. So despite Minnesota shooting the lights out from three in this game, Dallas just keeps hanging around. Minnesota's hit 10 threes. Dallas has only hit 2, but they're still down 4. Naz Reid in the lane, loses the basketball, and they're going to call a foul. Kyrie Irving looking at the refs. He does not agree, but Reid lost the ball. Maybe they got him on the arm, but it is hard to tell from afar. But regardless, Minnesota's going to the line. Stephen Cherry says Westbrook relies heavily on his athleticism, similar to Derrick Rose. Once that athleticism declines, their game tends to follow. I agree, and that's why it's so important to really develop a three-point shot if you're not a great three-point shooter. Look at Al Horford. There's no way Al Horford would still be in the NBA right now if he hadn't developed the type of three-point shot he has. The ability to be able to knock down as many threes as he does in games allows him to not have to battle in the paint all the time, which I feel like has made his career be as long as it has. I agree 100%. Westbrook never really became a great three-point shooter, so that hurt his ability to stay a great player in the NBA because of the fact that in his prime, when he was able to just drive all over the place and do ridiculous layups, he was unreal. And then he would be so open from three because of the threat of him driving that's why he was such a good player. I agree with you, Stephen Cherry. I mean, Westbrook, it's sad that he's no longer, the player that he was, but a lot of people just give him too much flack. He's still an NBA-level player. He just isn't what he was because he can't do what he used to do. And I agree with your point as well. Kyrie will have a longer shelf life because of his skill more than athleticism. Definitely. I mean, I agree 110%. I wouldn't change anything about what you just said. There's just it's just facts. Players that use their athleticism don't last as long. Look at Cam Newton. I mean, a guy like Cam Newton in the NFL, all his game was with basically his athleticism, the fact that he was big and could take a lot of hits and run. And then, unfortunately, once his body had been abused to death by getting hit so many times in the NFL, then Cam Newton's game went down the tank. I mean, it's just the way that it goes. You're 100% correct. Anthony Edwards knocking down the free throw right there, knocked down both of them. So after the missed free throw by Naz Reid, it was an offensive rebound, and then that ended up allowing Edwards to go to the line and knock them both down. So Minnesota now up by 7. P.J. Washington in the lane goes up with a little floater, and he gets the friendly roll. Nice play by P.J. Washington. Sometimes you just need that shooter's touch. Wasn't a pretty shot, but it does not matter. It counts all the same. Edwards for a deep three. Anthony Edwards from like 35 feet. What a shot. That's just confidence right there. Absolute confidence. Irving down the floor, and his shot goes in. Little friendly bounce. 62-56. Naz Reid kicking to Anthony Edwards. Can Edwards hit another deep one? Everybody on their feet in the target center. Under 10 seconds to go. Shot clock is off. And then Anthony Edwards throws it away. Rare mistake from Edwards. Tried to kick it to Conley, but that pass, he airmailed that one. Definitely airmailed that one. 5 seconds to go. P.J. Washington to Kyrie Irving. 2 seconds. Irving down the floor, and a foul is called. A foul is called with 0.7 to go right before the half. That's a foul. Jaden McDaniels, he got Kyrie Irving right on the head. And I think that might be an and one, too. That might be an and one. It might be continuation. Bad foul by Jaden McDaniels. You got to let him go at that point. You cannot foul there. Unreal. Irving's got 23 points in 20 minutes. I mean, without Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, I mean, I know they're the two stars, but without their play, Dallas will be down by a lot more in this game. Minnesota, it's been a much more balanced approach with their players scoring, whereas Dallas has been the two stars. They need a little more help from the role players, but the fact they're only going to be down 3 at the half, it looks like, that's big. Conley chucks it from deep, and it is off the mark. And that is your first half, folks. 62-59. Minnesota with a 3-point lead. What a first half. Kyrie Irving playing unbelievable basketball. Can't wait to see what happens in the second half. We got Jeff for $20. Appreciate that, Jeff, a lot. Definitely appreciate the super chat. I know things are really tough right now. A lot of people are struggling right now for sure. Absolutely. It is very tough times, especially with money, and I totally get it. But I do appreciate, Jeff, the contribution to the channel. Really do appreciate it a lot. It helps out the channel. Keeps the channel going. You guys being here keeps the channel going as well. Without you guys being here. I mean, I love talking sports, love doing these live shows, love doing videos, but without you guys, I mean, I'd be talking to a wall. So I do appreciate all you guys for being here. But the super chats really help out as well, and do appreciate the $20, Jeff. Definitely means a lot, and it definitely helps the channel. Really appreciate it a lot. He also says, come on, guys, help out. He deserves it. I appreciate that, Jeff. Really do, but do appreciate the $20. RC says, Anthony Flamethrowers Incorporated Edwards. That's hilarious, RC. I mean, when Anthony Edwards is feeling it, when he's on fire, I mean, he's a guy that he can go out there and be like the best player in the NBA. I mean, people are comparing him to Michael Jordan. Do I think those comparisons are valid? Not really, to an extent, but at the same time, kind of. I mean, I feel like Michael Jordan's in a league of his own, but Anthony Edwards is such a young player, and he already is as good as he is. So, I don't know. It's going to be crazy. For sure. Stephen Cherry says, don't expect the Timberwolves to keep hitting threes at this clip. Mavs still in striking distance. That's why it's so important that Dallas is only down 3. Because when you have a team like Minnesota that's hit double-digit threes and a half, and then the other team in Dallas, it's barely hit any threes in the game at all, realistically, Minnesota should be up by like 10 or 15. And if that was the case, I would be very concerned for Dallas. I'd be like, yeah, they're in big trouble losing this game, start the series off on the wrong foot, but they are only down 3. And yes, it has taken an unbelievable first half performance from Irving and Doncic to a lesser extent. And you can't necessarily expect Kyrie Irving to play as well in the second half as well, which you never know he could. But it would be tough to keep up that level of play the entire time. But I do think that it also goes to show that Dallas needs the role players to step up as well, because if PJ Washington can really get it going, which he was a little bit more down the stretch, he was starting to hit a couple shots there. If you can get him going, if Derek Jones can get more involved, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, if those guys can start making some shots, even Hardaway Jr. to a lesser extent, that's going to help out Kyrie Irving not have to do as much in the second half. Now, obviously, you want Kyrie Irving to have the ball in his hands toward the end of the game, along with Doncic, because they're the stars. But I do think it is very important, though, that they're within striking distance, like you said, Stephen Cherry, because of the fact that Minnesota realistically should be up by more. They should be up by a decent amount with the amount of threes they've hit. But I don't think they shouldn't hit as many threes in the second half. But I will say that I've always been a believer that when a team comes out and shoots as well as they do in the first half, it is very, very difficult to keep that up for a full 4 quarters, or in college basketball for 2 halves. But we saw the Miami Heat last year, specifically in that series against the Boston Celtics. I know a lot of people say the Boston Celtics choked the series. Tatum did get hurt in Game 7, but if you guys remember, first couple games in that series, Miami could not miss from 3. Miami was hitting like 23s per game. I mean, they couldn't miss. They were shooting like 50% from 3. And I don't even think necessarily Boston played all that bad. But unfortunately for Boston, there's nothing you can do when the team that you're playing against is hitting all those threes. I mean, it didn't matter if it was Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Barton, all those guys, Tyler Hero, all those guys were hitting ridiculous from 3. I feel like the Miami Heat, that's just a rare occurrence to happen. It does not happen all that often. And I feel like for Minnesota to do that in this game, specifically with them being not the best offensive team, quote unquote, which I think is funny because everybody said that they're not the best offensive team, but they're going out there and playing great on offense. But I think it would be harder for a team like Minnesota to continue to shoot as well from 3 than it would have been the Miami Heat, because the Miami Heat had all those shooters last year. I feel like with Minnesota, outside of Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, who's just, again, continuing to improve, continuing to play well, and even Karl Anthony Towns to a lesser extent, they don't have a ton of guys that can make threes. Like Kyle Anderson hit one. Like, will Kyle Anderson hit another 3 in the second half? Probably not. Conley, he's been a little off from outside. So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I do think that if Minnesota can't continue to play as well on offense as they have in this first half, then they're going to have to find a way to step up the defense. Because I feel like their defense is playing well. I don't think that it's necessarily that their defense has taken a step back or anything, but Dallas on offense, and that comes back to Irving. Irving has beaten Minnesota on defense down the floor on some of these drives several times. And that's how you beat a good defense. You can't let the defense get set. If you let the defense get set, it becomes a lot more difficult to score. If you can get out and run and break the press, break the D, then that's how you can get easier buckets. But the issue with that is the longer the game goes, you get more tired. And Irving might not be able to run the floor at the rate that he is right now once, like, he's been playing for 40 minutes. So it's going to be a chess match. I think still this game's going to go down the wire. I can see it going both ways. I can see Minnesota going cold from outside, and their defense does everything it can, but Dallas keeps up the hot, offense. Irving keeps playing well. The role players step up and they win. Or I could see Minnesota continuing to play well on offense, or defense steps up and they get it done at home. It could go either way. Legitimately, the poll that I put on YouTube You guys have voted in 15 votes. Appreciate you guys for voting in the poll. But you guys are split. T-Wolves at 53%, Mavericks at 47%. And I don't blame you for basically being 50-50 down the middle on who is going to win. Because I think that this series, it's going to be very close. It's going to be hotly contested. It's going to go down to the wire in a lot of these games. And I believe that this game's going to be close as well. And then we got Stephen Cherry asking, will Reddick get the Lakers job? Can't believe people saying he's the next Pat Riley. Well, I mean, that is way too, I guess you would say, premature to project. Way too early. I mean, Pat Riley, I mean, he's the owner of Miami. And, I mean, we're saying that Reddick, like, he's on that career trajectory. I mean, we know he was a great basketball player, great shooter. And he's a good analyst. I know, obviously, like any analyst out there, there's going to be people that don't like them. But I think Reddick, he's a good commentator. But the thing is, for him to get the Lakers job and then become the next Pat Riley, how's that going to work out? Because of the fact that, like, if LeBron James is still at the Lakers, he gets every coach fired. And you could be like, well, he's not going to be there that much longer. And if Reddick gets the job, like he's on, LeBron only going to be there 2 more years. How could he get him fired? LeBron has gotten coaches fired that quickly. I mean, it's not impossible. So, I mean, if I'm JJ Redick, I would be very wary of taking the Lakers job. I know the job holds a lot of prestige, but it's not going to do Redick any good to get the job and then get fired after 2 years because LeBron James is not happy or whatever. I mean, the whole Bronny James conundrum is a whole other story. I mean, you talk about a guy that averaged less than 5 points per game in college. He hasn't done anything. If he wasn't LeBron James' son, there is no way that he would even be in the discussion of getting drafted. And I know people are like, oh, he had a good combine. Okay, so did a ton of other players, and their draft stock hasn't improved. It's like Bronny James should not be getting the coverage that he is. He's not that good, unfortunately. It's nothing against Bronny. I have absolutely nothing against Bronny. He's just not that good right now. Will he ever be good? I don't know. But if the Lakers draft Bronny to keep LeBron James, then I think they're insane. It makes no sense. I mean, to me, I would rather let LeBron James go and let another team draft Bronny and LeBron follow that team than keep LeBron, and LeBron James is only going to be there for like 2 more years anyway. And then Bronny, if he is a bust, which more than likely he will be, then you just wasted a draft pick. It makes no sense to me. And if Reddick gets the job and all this goes down while he's the coach, they're going to blame it on Reddick. And it's like, of course, it's got to be somebody else's fault. So to me, I mean, will he get the job? I mean, he seems to be the favorite for it. I've seen a few other names. Like I saw Sam Cassell or whatever. He was on the list. I don't know if that's going to happen, but, Reddick seems like the front runner. Anything can change. I haven't really looked at, see what happens. I don't know. But I don't know. I just think that Reddick would make a big mistake to take the job. Should he become a head coach one day? I mean, if that's what he wants to do, obviously that's what people think he should do. People think that, he would be a good coach because he, knows the game of basketball. I'm not saying that he shouldn't become a head coach, but if LeBron James is at the Lakers, I would not take the job because to me, only bad things can happen from that. Stephen Cherry says, not to mention Bronny has a heart condition as well. Team's not taking that risk with a mid player. Absolutely. And I hate it for Bronny that he had that problem. I really do. Because I did make I did a video. I didn't do like a complete video where I talked about it, but in one of my portal videos about a month ago, I did mention like in the video about Bronny James, would he enter the portal? Like, would he go to another school? Which he is in the portal, but like, it seems like the consensus now is that he's going to stay in the draft since now he's guaranteed to get drafted or whatever, which again is absolutely insane. But yes, I did mention the heart condition. Like, that sucks. I hate that for him. I really do. And I have nothing against the guy. Like, I even saw like recently or whatever, I think somewhere where some like Bronny said that, it's tough being LeBron James' kid. Of course it's tough being LeBron James's kid. I mean, it's tough to be anybody that's famous at something, to be their kid, and especially if you try to follow in their footsteps and do the same profession. It's hard because you're always going to be compared to your father. It's just the way that it goes. I mean, you look at Michael Jordan, his son Jeffrey Jordan didn't do anything. Scottie Pippen, his son Scottie Pippen Jr., I think he's a pretty solid player, but he doesn't play in the NBA much because he's like 6 foot when his dad was 6'6". I mean, it's just tough. It's very tough. That's why I feel like for like someone like Trace Jackson Davis, it was so important for Trace Jackson Davis in the fact that his dad is Dale Davis, who was a former Pacer, former really good player in the NBA, had a good career. But nobody ever talked about that Trace Jackson Davis was Dale Davis's kid. I heard it like 3 times out of the 4 years he was in college. It was barely ever mentioned. And one of the times it was mentioned was by Bill Walton or whatever in the Maui tournament Indiana was in. And he was like, is Trace Jackson Davis Dale Davis's son? I didn't know that. So it's like, when you don't have that label that you're somebody famous, you're the son of somebody famous or whatever that played in you did the same profession as you, it makes it a whole lot easier. I mean, Jackson Davis still, could have been the player that he was even if they just kept hammering, oh, it's Dale Davis. And I know that Dale Davis isn't LeBron or, Michael Jordan. I get that. He wasn't like on that level, but still Dale Davis was a pretty well-known player. But nobody ran it down their throat that, oh, Jackson Davis is his son and that, oh, he's going to be a star because of Dale Davis and it's in the genes or whatever. But that's the issue with Bronny. It's just bad. It's just so bad for the overhype, the overhypeness of what they're doing to Bronny James. It's not fair to Bronny. It is not fair at all whatsoever. And it's only going to hurt him from possibly ever being good. It's not fair to him. I don't think it is. And again, if the Lakers to keep LeBron James, because if it is true that LeBron James has the stipulation that if the Lakers do not draft Bronny, that he is not staying, then they're nuts. I mean, at the very least, there's a really good chance, unless these other teams are insane, any of these other teams in the NBA, and one of them bites on Bronny somehow in like the second round, and they're like, oh, we got Bronny, come here, LeBron. If one of them does that, then I don't know what they're doing. But what would be just the perfect scenario to make everybody happy is that nobody needs to draft Bronny. If Bronny does stay in the draft, which I would advise against, he needs to go back to college. He needs to transfer if that's what he wants to do, go out away from USC. He needs to transfer somewhere else. But if the best case scenario for Bronny James would be for him, if he does stay in the draft, is to not get drafted and the Lakers just take him as an undrafted free agent. There you go. He can play with his dad. Everybody's happy, and then whatever. And if Bronny doesn't work out, he doesn't work out, which is very likely. I'm not saying that it's impossible he can't be good, but it's very unlikely. And it would just be very, very good for the Lakers to take him where they don't have to draft him and you're not really having to give up anything. You're not having to give up a draft selection that you could possibly get a good player. Instead, you just get Bronny. And then LeBron's happy. And then once LeBron's out of the league in 2 years or 3 years or whatever, and he's no longer playing, then you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, we have to get rid of Bronny now because he's no good and he's taking up a roster spot. It's like, and we took him in the first round and it ruined our draft. Nope, we got him as an undrafted free agent. It's no loss. It doesn't hurt. That's just the way I look at it. But again, I'm not the one making these decisions. I'm not in these circles. I'm not, in any organization. I can't give any feedback, but that's just my opinion. I could be way off kilter. You guys in chat could probably disagree. And I don't blame you if you do, but that's my opinion on the whole Bronny, LeBron James, Lakers, JJ Redick situation. I don't think Redick needs to take the Lakers job if LeBron James and Bronny are there. I just don't. I think JJ Redick would be, and it would be a bad move for him. It would not be the right move. I'm not saying he's insane because of the fact he takes the job. Obviously, he is rich already because he played in the league forever, but he'd be getting a lot of money. The clout of just being the Lakers coach. I get it. I understand it. It's not, you're not insane to do it, but I just think in the long run, though, it would hurt Redick because he'll get blamed. Every coach that has ever had LeBron James on their team gets blamed for the failures of the team. It's never LeBron's fault. It's never anybody's fault. It's always the coach's fault. And is that fair to the coach? Not really. I've said it before. I'll say it again. A lot of these coaches in the NBA, if you have a good team like Joe Mazzulla, he's got the easiest job in the world. He's got a fantastic team. And, all those guys got to do is play well. If the Celtics win a title this year, Joe Mazzulla, people are going to be like, he's the greatest coach ever. And it's like, he's got this team, this fantastic team. You know, I mean, if they end up losing, I mean, obviously people are going to blame Missoula. That's just the way people are. They're always going to blame the coach. But look at Popovich. Popovich won a lot of games with Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. Now that he doesn't have those guys, they're not winning, but no one's saying Popovich can't coach. It's just a narratives thing. It really is. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Like I said, no matter what I say, it's not going to influence anything. It's on what happens. So whatever happens, happens, and hopefully everybody involved makes the right decision. But the third quarter is back on between Minnesota and Dallas. 11:40 to go in the third quarter. 3-point lead for Minnesota. And you got Dallas trying to top the game. They cannot, but then Gafford with the offensive rebound, but he can't get the shot to go. So now we got Ant-Man bringing the basketball up the floor. 11:20 to go in the third quarter. Edwards over to Rudy Gobert. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Conley taking a triple, and it is off the mark. And now we got Gafford with the rebound. Kyrie Irving up the floor, who had an excellent first half. And he kicks to Daniel Gafford. What a slam by Gafford. I thought the pass was too tall, but it ended up connecting. What a play. 10:50 to go in the third. Jaden McDaniels in the mid-range, and his shot's off the mark. Washington couldn't get the rebound, though, and Rudy Gobert right there. You got to get that rebound. What a play. Always stick with it if you're an offensive player. Stick with the play. Good things are going to happen. And then Daniel Gafford, this time Luka Doncic kicks it to him, and he dunks it yet again. 64-63. Gafford with 6.7 boards. Minnesota's got to stick to him. And then Conley with a layup, but they're going to, I think, call a foul on the floor. So I don't think there's no basket there. But, man, Gafford can jump, man. He's got verticality. 2 massive slams for Gafford. Gets the Minnesota Timberwolves lead down to 1. Anthony Edwards kicking over to Towns. Towns almost loses the basketball, but he saves it. Driving on P.J. Washington off the glass. Can't get it to fall. Now Irving up the floor. Behind the back dribble. Under 10 to go in the third quarter. Irving over to Luka Doncic. Doncic with Jaden McDaniels on him. Doncic to Gafford. Gafford loses the ball. Edwards with a steal. That Timberwolves defense stepping up. Jaden McDaniels down the floor, and he gracefully lays it in. Could have slammed it home, but goes with the soft layup. 66-63. 3-point game. 9:30 to go in the third. Doncic with the ball. Screen for P.J. Washington. Doncic to Washington. In the lane, nowhere to go. Irving kicks to Gafford again, and Gafford with the soft layup. Gafford is a zone buster. You got all these guys driving in the lane. You just kick it to him in the middle of the lane, and he can get it all the way to the rim with his verticality. Conley to Gobert, and Gobert loses the basketball out of bounds, but I think they're going to say that the Mavericks touched it last. 66-65. 9:09 to go in the third quarter. Edwards is the inbounder. Almost a steal for P.J. Washington. Towns to Conley. Conley's three is an air ball. Doncic down the floor. Chance to take the lead for the Mavericks. P.J. Washington thought about the triple. Kicks over to Derek Jones. Jones goes off the glass, misses the shot. Gafford falls to the deck, and there is a foul on the floor. That's a tough fall for Gafford. Looks like he's going to be okay. But, yeah, that's a push by Gobert. I mean, I know Gobert tried to sell it like he wasn't, but he definitely pushed on that play. Gafford's a little shaken up. Looks like Derek Lively's coming to the game. And that's what's so important when you got a guy like Derek Lively who's playing so good as a rookie. Gafford a little shaken up. Gafford in a little bit of foul trouble or tired. I mean, you just bring Lively right in and you're not losing that much. Maybe you're losing a little bit more of the experience from a guy like Gafford being in the league for a while, but still, you're not losing much with Lively. Hopefully, Gafford's all right. Irving taking a three. It almost went in, but a little strong. Now, Conley up the floor. Behind the back dribble, got Derek Jones on him. Kicks to Edwards. 15 on the shot clock. Irving on Edwards. Edwards dribbling around, kicks to Jaden McDaniels. McDaniels kicks to Towns in the corner, and his shot is short. It looked like he was fading a little bit too much on that shot. That's why he missed it short. Lively up the floor. Kicks to Derek Jones for the slam, and Dallas is back in front, 67-66. Good teamwork there. Smart decision by Derek Lively to make that pass. 8 to go in the third quarter. Mavs with a 1-point lead. T-Wolves trying to respond. Edwards for three, off the mark. Towns with the flush. Oh, my goodness. Anthony Edwards missed the three, and Karl Anthony Towns with the one-handed putback slam. That's a great play. P.J. Washington misses the three. Towns with the board. Minnesota up by 1. That was a really good play. I don't know if they'll have it out SportsCenter top 10, but it very well could be. Anthony Edwards, three, is off the mark yet again. Derek Jones with the rebound. Dallas down by 1. P.J. Washington Jr. up the floor. Driving on Conley. That's a size mismatch, but kicks to Irving. Back to P.J. Washington going up with it. It's off the mark, but a foul on Conley. Guess Conley got a little too physical there, but it's tough when you're guarding a bigger. Just can't beat it. P.J. Washington's first free throw, it is good. So we got a tie game at 68-68. This game, I think, is going to go down to the wire. I really believe so. I mean, the way that these teams are playing, both teams playing hard, giving it 110%. And keep in mind, this is only game one. This is only game one, and it's only going to get more intense from here, I believe. I mean, I think that the way that both these teams' franchises have been, Minnesota being bad for 2 decades, Dallas, they've been down somewhat the past few years. I just believe that we're going to see a very contested series go down the wire, possibly to game 6, game 7. I can't wait to see what happens the rest of this series. I feel like Boston, they should take care of Indiana. I mean, I have no idea. Indiana, they were really competitive with Boston in game 1, so you never know. You never know. Maybe they can make that series tough on them. I feel like if Kristaps, when he returns, though, if he returns, I think that's going to help Boston finish off the series easier. But this series, I mean, both teams were just playing excellent basketball. But like you said, Steven, the Wolves have cooled off. That is absolutely true. The Wolves have cooled off, and it's going to be very interesting to see if Minnesota continues to struggle shooting the basketball right now, because that is what you said earlier. Don't expect the Timberwolves to keep hitting threes at this clip, and they haven't. I mean, they've started to miss threes or not shooting the ball as well as they were earlier in the game, and that has allowed Dallas to tie this game up. It is tough to go a whole 4 quarters shooting the basketball as well as you were in the first half. It is very tough. You can do it for 2 quarters, but to do it for a full 4, like I said, that's why the Miami Heat, what they did against the Boston Celtics last year, was such an anomaly. It was unexpected. No one was expecting that at all. And that's why I feel like even though a lot of people, give flack to the Celtics, oh, they choked, oh, they fell apart, I just don't really think it's necessarily fair to, say that the Boston Celtics are terrible just because of the fact that they did give up all those threes. Because of the fact Miami did a rare thing. That does not happen very often. I mean, it's just very hard to blame Boston when Miami did what they did. And I feel like if Minnesota had to continue to shoot threes at a big rate in this game, and maybe they continue, maybe they'll get it back before the game's over. But like if they end up shooting like 20 or 22 threes, making all those, then I believe that would, be justifiable in saying if Dallas loses, which more likely they would if Minnesota hits that many threes, to say that, yeah, I mean, I don't think Minnesota's going to keep that up. And it was just a tough break for Dallas. But some people don't look at it that way. Some people say, oh, it was bad defense. But I don't think necessarily, especially with the Boston series with Miami last year, I don't think it was bad defense. I think sometimes just guys are on fire. Now, first half, Dallas did give up a few open threes. It looks like they've learned their lesson on that. They're not allowing that to happen as frequently in the second half, but they got to keep playing hard. Can't allow Minnesota to be comfortable. Stephen Cherry says Porzingis will have rust if he returns in these playoffs. Yeah, that's true. But I think that's why it's more important that they find a way to work him back in this Pacers series. If he could play some, then maybe by the finals, he can be kind of back to playing at 80%. If he does that, especially if they do have to face Minnesota with all these bigs, that will be able to help him. That will be able to help him go out there and more be able to compete with those guys, because at least he'll have his feet back under him a little bit by playing some in the Pacers series. That's why I feel he needs to at least play in 2 or 3 games against Indiana, even if it's not the full game. Just play like 15, 20 minutes a game, get back in game shape, get back to being used to being out on the floor, and then maybe by the time that they play whoever, whether it's Dallas or Minnesota, especially if it's Minnesota, he'll be ready for it. But Dallas, they're up by 1, 69-68 after the free throw. Towns trying to drive into the lane, going up strong, and he is fouled by P.J. Washington. He does not agree, though. Feels that Towns barreled into him, which it very well looked like that was more Towns there with that contact. But again, they're always going to favor the offensive player. It's just the way that it goes. Towns at the line. His first free throw is up and good. So we got a tie game. The spread at the start of the game was -4.5. Now it's 2.5. And I don't know if you guys saw my tweet earlier, but I did say that I feel like, unfortunately, the gambling emphasis in games where they just show all the time like what the spread is, that doesn't help sports at all. Like, outside of people that care so much about it and betting and all that, no one wants to see that all game. And then the amount of times people are talking about non-sports issues as well, people just get so frustrated by that. They just want sports. But back to the sports action, though. Mike Conley with a big triple. 73-69. What a shot right there. P.J. Washington driving into the lane. Kicks to Luka Doncic. Doncic going up with it. Derek Lively saving it, and Derek Lively laying it in. Cuts it to 2, 73-71. That's a really good play by Lively. Saving that basketball, showing off his athleticism. Towns kicks to Jaden McDaniels. McDaniels kicks to Gobert, and Gobert with the slam. 75-71. 4-point game, 6 to go in the third quarter. This game's flying by. P.J. Washington, top of the key. He's got Towns on him. Over to Derek Lively, top of the key. Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic gets a screen with Lively, going into the paint, goes up with it, off glass, and I think they called a foul on that play. They've definitely been calling a lot more fouls last couple minutes. I mean, it seems like, I guess they don't want things to escalate, but still, it's like, you want to let them play as well. I mean, this is the NBA playoffs. Didn't look like too much of a foul on that play, but Doncic's first free throw, it is up and good. So it's 75-72. 5:45 to go in the third. Dallas is doing a good job of hanging around. Like Minnesota, even though their offense has cooled off some, they've gotten it back a little bit in the past few minutes. And Dallas is still hanging tough, not giving up any ground. Doncic's second free throw is good as well. So as long as Dallas can hang around, if they can keep this game, under 5 points, be down by 2, down by 3, if they can keep hanging tough, they might find a way to be able to pull this thing out by the end of the game. But Towns to Gobert, trying to make sure that the Mavs don't win. What a play right there. A big dunk from Gobert, 77-73. 4-point game. 5:23 to go in the third quarter. Doncic with the basketball in the mid-range. Step-back jumpers pure. 77-75. 5:10 to go in the third quarter. Big shot from Luka Doncic. Conley. Over to Towns. His three's off the mark. Gobert tries to save it from going out of bounds. And unfortunately for the T-Wolves, he does lose it out of bounds. But good effort by Rudy Gobert. Yeah, Doncic, that's a really good shot by Doncic. I mean, you almost take for granted how good Doncic is at that step-back jumper. I mean, it is pure more often than not. And the degree of difficulty on the shot, it's not easy, but he's just able to make it because he's got such good touch on the ball, and his height allows him to get the shot off against most defenders. And then you've got Kyrie Irving going down the floor. What a play by Irving. He's playing excellent in this game. 77 all. 4:40 to go in the third quarter. Jaden McDaniels going up with it to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker with the layup. And then on the other end, Dallas getting a little bit too antsy on that play, bringing it up the floor. Anthony Edwards kicking over for a three from Jaden McDaniels. He's off the mark. Nickeil Alexander-Walker saves it. Then it's over to Towns, back to Alexander-Walker, to Anthony Edwards, who thought about the triple but drives into the lane. His shot's off the mark, but it's off of the Dallas Mavericks. 4:09 to go in the third quarter. We got a 2-point lead for the T-Wolves, but the head coach for Minnesota, he's looking for a foul. He thought there was a foul on that play, but he's not going to get it. Man, that was a massive scrum on the floor. I mean, Towns is like being hounded on the ground. That probably was a foul. And let's see, Edwards driving in. Yeah, there's an argument for it. But at least for Minnesota, they are going to be getting the ball out of the timeout. But we got a 2-point game. It's been a fun game so far. We got 16 minutes to go to see who's going to take game one. But appreciate everybody for being here so far tonight. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Share the stream out on social media. But most importantly, I appreciate all you guys for being here. Really appreciate the super chat from Jeff as well. Helps a lot. Really appreciate it. But appreciate everybody for being here. I cannot wait for the rest of this game and the rest of this series. I don't want the NBA over just yet, but it's getting close. We got to enjoy the games while we got them. But I believe that this is a really fun way to end the playoffs, having these four teams, the Eastern Conference Finals, the Western Conference Finals, like the only team that is one of like the big brands, per se, the brand organizations is the Boston Celtics. But I feel like, Boston hasn't won it in a while. And most people, I don't think, dislike the players that they have on the team. And then you got organizations like Minnesota, like Dallas that want to win. And even Indiana as well. I mean, they haven't had the success in a while, being able to have, massive success, going on deep runs in the playoffs, getting a title even. So it's nice to see these teams that we're not used to seeing really go this far. And I think that all these games, that I didn't think Indiana might be as competitive with Boston, but then look what they did, taking it to overtime. So it looks like these games are going to be competitive. And with the style of play that these teams have, it makes for fun basketball. You're seeing a lot of offense. And even though Minnesota's a better defensive team, Dallas is speeding them up. Now, will Minnesota figure that out later on in the series where it eventually slows Dallas down? Or maybe it's just because Kyrie Irving's playing so well in this game. I don't know. But all the credit to Dallas for hanging tough in this game. And Irving's playing excellent basketball. I mean, it's keeping them in it. Without his play, they would be down by a lot more. Stephen Cherry says, I hope Indiana beats the Celtics. I'm sure a lot of people would agree with your sentiment. Definitely, again, if you don't want, a brand team to win, it would be cool to see Indiana get it done. We'll have to see. They fought so hard in game one and couldn't get it done. It's going to be very hard to replicate that performance. But the thing is no one thought they were going to win the first two series, but it did take a lot of injuries from the Knicks for Indiana to get by them. So it might be really hard. It might be really hard at the end of the day for Indiana to be able to beat the Celtics, especially do not want anything to happen to any of the Celtics players. Porzingis is already out, but if the Celtics stay healthy, especially if they get Porzingis back later in the series, it's just going to be very hard for Indiana to beat them. It's going to be very difficult because, unfortunately, the Boston Celtics, they have more experience. They got a really good team, and they're a lot more healthy than the Bucks were, especially by the end of that series. And then the Knicks, the Knicks got decimated, and they still almost beat the Pacers. That was so impressive by New York, having all those guys out, and they still almost beat Indiana. Just very impressive. Couldn't get it done. And people blaming Tom Thibodeau. It's like, how is it Tom Thibodeau's fault? He barely had a team by the end there. You can't blame the guy. But you know how it is. I mean, fans, they're always going to end up blaming the coach. It is what it is, even if it's absolutely unjustified. But we got a 2-point game here, 79-77. T-Wolves up by 2. Dallas takes a 3, can't get it to fall. Minnesota with the ball, bringing it up. 3:40 to go in the third quarter. Kyle Anderson with the basketball. He had a really good first half, knocking down all those mid-range jumpers. Anthony Edwards with the ball. Going up, a little like with a floater, but kicks to Anderson instead to Nikhil Alexander-Walker, and his 3 did everything but drop right there. Under 3:30 to go. Dallas from 2 is 31 of 43 from the field. From 3, they're 2 of 18. So Dallas is shooting well everywhere but from the three-point line. Irving misses the shot. Naz Reid finally ends up with the basketball right there. T-Wolves going down the floor. 3 to go in the third quarter. Kyle Anderson navigating traffic, kicks to Gobert, and Gobert really couldn't do much with it because he only had one arm free. Couldn't get it to go. Jaden Hardy kicks in the corner to Josh Green, and Josh Green with a triple. Finally, Josh Green making a contribution in this game for the Dallas Mavericks, and it's a big shot right there to put the Mavs back in front. 80-79, 1-point lead for Dallas. Anthony Edwards with the basketball, kicking over to Naz Reid, the 6th man of the year. Reid kicking it to Gobert. Outside to Edwards for a wide-open 3, and his shot went in and out. 2 threes in a row for Minnesota did everything but drop. Jaden Hardy with the basketball for Dallas, trying to shake free of Anthony Edwards. Kicks to Gafford. It looks like he almost lost the ball to Gafford, but Gafford can't get that shot to go. Edwards back up the floor. 15 seconds on the shot clock. He is stripped of the ball, and the ball is out of bounds off of, I'm not sure yet. The refs have not made the signal. But, man, this game's going back and forth. I mean, Minnesota, they've led this game more than Dallas has. Dallas has only led in short stints. But like I said, the fact Dallas just keeps on fighting. Every time they get down by 5-6 points, they make sure that they go on a run to get the game right back around tied or have a 1 or 2 point lead. Dallas is playing great. As well as Minnesota has shot the ball, Dallas should be down by a lot more. But, I mean, they have done a great job from 2. And what's so crazy about it is like the strength of the Minnesota Timberwolves is their front court. Their front court is their strength because of the fact that they have Naz Reid, they have Karl Anthony Towns, they have Rudy Gobert. That usually prevents teams from making a living down low, and it makes them have to shoot more jump shots. Dallas, they're just scoring anyway. It doesn't matter. Luka Doncic getting to his mid-range shot. Kyrie Irving's been unbelievable getting to the rim. Gafford has done a good job down low. It's like they're trying to guard Kyrie Irving and Doncic when they drive in that they forget about Gafford. And then Gafford makes them pay. So it's been very fun to watch Dallas figure out ways to counter Minnesota's style of play. And it might be tough for them to do it the entire series because you know Minnesota's going to make adjustments. You know that they're going to find a way to figure it out. But it has been very impressive to see how well Dallas has played in this game. In fact, they're only about 1. Speaks to how well Minnesota has shot the ball, but Dallas should not be winning at all, so it's very impressive. But the ball, it looks like it's off Edwards. It looks like it's off Anthony Edwards. But they are reviewing it. It was a coach's challenge, so I guess that they called it off of Dallas maybe, and then Dallas challenged it because it looks like it's off Edwards' foot. But, yeah, it's a successful challenge, so it's going to end up being Dallas Mavericks basketball. Yeah, it's off Edwards. Good challenge. Wait, Jason Kidd's arguing the call. So, wait, am I seeing this wrong? No, I don't know what Jason Kidd was arguing about, but yes, Dallas is getting the ball. It was off Edwards, so the challenge was successful, but I don't know what Jason Kidd was arguing with the ref about. But 2 minutes to go in the third quarter, 1-point game. We got a tight one. Can Dallas extend the lead? Luka Doncic driving on Kyle Anderson. He's taking a step back. His shot just a little bit short. Usually he's money on that shot. Just couldn't get that one to fall. Kyle Anderson bringing the ball up the floor. Jackson saying same to Stephen Cherry. He hopes Indiana wins as well. I get it. I mean, they haven't had success in a while. It'd be cool for a smaller market team to get it done. Josh Green going up for the slam dunk, and he misses the dunk. Should have laid that one in. Anthony Edwards off the dribble, kicks to Naz Reid in the corner, and Naz Reid knocks down the three. That looked like the way Minnesota was playing in the first half, hitting all those threes. 82-80. Doncic, looks like there's a foul. Gafford got knocked to the deck, probably an illegal screen. Yeah, that was an insane pass from Doncic to Josh Green, but Josh Green couldn't capitalize on it. He missed the dunk. I mean, I get it. You want to be flashy, but still. Doncic driving and sees a lane, kicks to Gafford for the dunk. That's a great play by Doncic. He could have tried to go up with the layup and maybe get fouled, but saw that Gafford had another wide open lane. Minnesota's not guarding him. Gafford's got 10 points. All knotted up at 82 apiece. Under a minute to go in the third quarter. Kyle Anderson kicks to Naz Reid. Then you got Josh Green with the steal. Good play on defense. But then Josh Green with a turnover. Overthinking it, man. You had the play. Stephen Cherry says, Jackson, enjoyed your interview with Steve Hellwagon. Yeah, it was an excellent interview, Jackson. That one and the Max Torres interview were both great. Fantastic interviews. Did great, man. Really enjoyed them for sure. I'm glad Stephen Cherry enjoyed it as well. Anthony Edwards thought about the triple, kicks to Naz Reid. Reid in the lane, loses the ball, and he's fouled. So 20 seconds to go in the third quarter. Tied up at 82, and Naz Reid has the chance to give the T-Wolves the lead again. We've had a lot of lead changes recently. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with this fourth quarter because Minnesota, their shooting has cooled off a bit, but their defense seems to be ratcheting up. I mean, it looked like we were on track to possibly have like 120, 125 points in this one, but with the amount of defense we saw in the third quarter, maybe we're only going to get like 105, maybe close to 110. But then Dallas, they just keep scratching and clawing and hanging around. And Irving, his play's been unbelievable. He's played so well in this game. And then like guys like Gafford. I mean, you got to give Gafford a lot of credit for his effort. And then Doncic just had a lot of good moments. So Dallas playing very hard. Naz Reid, he did knock down the first to give Minnesota the lead, but his second free throw is off the mark. Minnesota's missed a few free throws. That could come back to haunt him as well. You got to knock down your free throws. 10 seconds left in the third quarter. Luka Doncic driving into the lane. Slips a little bit. Kicks to Hardy, and there is a turnover with 3 seconds. Luka Doncic, he might have had that play, but he slipped. Very unfortunate play for Luka Doncic. Now we got some substitutions being made. Doncic is leaving the game. Derek Jones is coming in. Kyle Anderson inbounds the ball. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he slips as well, and that will be the end of the third quarter. A lot of guys slipping on the floor right now, and it looks like Nickeil Alexander-Walker's a little shaken up. Looks like he hurt his foot a little bit. That's not good news for Minnesota. I mean, is he one of the best players on their team? Absolutely not. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker, still a good depth piece, had a pretty solid season, but he's in pain. Looked like maybe there was a little bit of a wet spot on that floor right there, and he slipped. That's tough. Hopefully he's all right. It's crazy, though, seeing Luka Doncic slip, and then right after that, you see Nickeil Alexander-Walker slipping as well. That's weird. They got to do a better job of keeping the floor dry. Stephen Cherry says, what has happened to Hardaway? Is he injured? Dude has disappeared in the playoffs. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I mean, Tim Hardaway Jr. for the Dallas Mavericks, I mean, he's a guy that is still a solid player. I mean, he's put up pretty solid numbers this season. He's averaged around 14 points per game. But in the postseason, season, I mean, he's been non-existent. I mean, he definitely has not done as much as he did in the regular season. So, I don't know. I mean, is it the end of the world for Dallas that he's not playing well? No, but I do believe that if you could have more guys playing well, I mean, that can only help your team. I mean, it makes it a lot harder when you're trying to go out there, win a series against a team that has a lot of depth. Minnesota arguably has one of the deeper teams in the league. And then you talk about Dallas, it's not just Irving and Doncic. You need those other players. And like PJ Washer stepped up some, Gafford stepped up some, but then you got a guy like Hardaway Jr., who's been in the league for a little bit. And it's like he's just not doing anything. So that is frustrating for sure. I absolutely agree. So I don't know. Melanie actually appreciates you for being here. He says, who you got winning? I picked the Timberwolves to win the series. So I would say that I probably think Minnesota is going to win this game. I think Minnesota will take game one. They've been doing good at taking game one, but you never know. I mean, you absolutely never know. I mean, I think that Dallas is playing well enough to possibly win the game. I mean, they're playing really hard. And despite Minnesota playing one of the better offensive games during the playoffs, they still only lead by one right now. So, I mean, even though my prediction from the beginning, because I have the Minnesota Timberwolves winning the series, and I think they'll win the home games, I picked them, but I'm impressed with Dallas. So they could end up getting it done. But I really appreciate you for being here, Melanie. Appreciate it a lot. And Jackson also says, thank you, Steven. It was pretty awesome. He's a cool dude. I mean, Steve Hellwagon's awesome. Mac Torres is awesome. You're getting some really good guests, Jackson. But do appreciate you for being here as well, man. Appreciate, again, the super chat from Jeff earlier. It's been a great stream. Been a great game. Appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Really helps out the channel. We're getting closer and closer to 3,000 subs. Couldn't do without you guys. Appreciate you guys a lot. But we got 12 minutes to go. 1-point game. Minnesota at home. They got the momentum a little bit right now. Retaking the lead. Fans on their feet. Can they pull this thing out? Dallas giving them a run for their money. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he is in the game, so it looks like he's okay. That's good to see, but he looked like he was in pain there for a minute. But Naz Reid knocking down the triple. Minnesota leads by 4, 86-82. Kyrie Irving taking some contact, and he's fouled. So Kyrie Irving, who's had an excellent game all around with his play, still being aggressive, and I think that he's going to have to be aggressive for the rest of the game. If there is any shot that Dallas is going to win this game, it's going to take a lot more from Kyrie Irving, unfortunately. I mean, he's already done enough, but it's just going to be very, very difficult for Dallas to win if he doesn't continue to play at a high level. The role players aren't doing enough, to be honest. I mean, I do think Gafford's had a good game, but it's not like he's got like 20. He's got like 10 points. He's played well, but Irving, I think he's got like 30 points. We'll just have to see if Dallas can continue to get as much as they can from their stars, and maybe they can pull this thing out. But Minnesota, they just keep knocking down big shot after big shot. They've hit a lot of threes in this game. Irving does knock down both free throws, so it's 86-84. Dallas is 11 of 11 at the line. T-Wolves are 10 of 15. So if Minnesota had hit more free throws, they'd be up by more right now. In the corner, though, Jaden McDaniels, who's been hot from three, and his hot streak continues, burying another triple. 89-84. He's hit 6 threes in this game, 6 of 8. He's got 24 points. Doncic step back shots off the mark. Gobert with the board. 5-point game. Is this where Minnesota starts to extend the lead? Conley to Gobert off the mark. Conley with the rebound. And I think there is a travel on Conley. When he got that rebound, he didn't dribble the basketball and he shuffled his feet. Now, obviously, the NBA could call travel on every single play, but they really seem to prioritize the travels when you first get the basketball and you don't dribble. But I think they should prioritize it in every situation. Jackson says, let's go T-Wolves. Definitely. Jackson wants Minnesota to win because they're a small market team. I get it. Totally get it. I mean, when teams have had a lot of tough times and they haven't had a lot of success, you like to see, a franchise that is starving for success to be able to have success. It would be pretty cool to see Indiana and the T-Wolves, but it's going to be very hard for Indiana to beat Boston. Can it be done? I think it is possible, but it's going to be very hard. And then this series, Minnesota, it's going to take probably everything they got to beat Dallas because, Dallas, they're not going away lightly. And why should they? They've gotten this far, and they got a really good team. But 89-84, Minnesota leads by 5 points. And in the YouTube poll that I put out, you guys are now saying 63% T-Wolves, 37% Mavericks on who is going to win game one. 27 votes in the poll. Appreciate you guys for voting. But I think that the poll is starting to reflect the way the game is looking right now. It does seem like Minnesota is starting to gain a bit of an edge. It's only a 5-point game. Dallas, this has really been the extent of how much Minnesota has led in the game. Dallas has kept it relatively under 10 like the whole game. They haven't ever let it get out of hand. But you can tell that the momentum is slightly starting to shift. And it's going to be very hard for Dallas to continue to just keep going at it, possession after possession, with Minnesota continuing to knock down these threes and with that tough defense. It's going to be very hard. I feel like with the way that the T-Wolves are playing, that it's going to be kind of hard for them to easily win this series because of the fact that it's taken a bunch of threes in this game for them to even get the little bit of the lead that they have. They've knocked down a lot of threes, a lot more than they normally do. So it's going to be interesting. It will be very interesting to see what happens as the series goes on. I think, like I've said tons of times in this stream, I think this series is going to go down to the wire. I feel like both teams are playing excellent basketball, and it's going to be very tough for either team to really gain that edge. But Minnesota, their defense is going to have to win them this series, and it is starting to step up. Dallas's offense has not been as crisp as it was earlier in this game, but Minnesota shot so well from the three-point line that you would think that they'd be up by a little bit more than they are. And that's the alarming thing. But I do feel like Kyrie Irving playing as well as he has in this game, and the fact Dallas is still losing, you can look at it from that angle, and that's frustrating as well. He's been on fire. He's cooled off a bit, but he's had a great game. And when you're a guy, like Kyrie Irving, and you play so well, it doesn't matter who it is. You have a fantastic performance scoring like 40 points and you lose. It's really frustrating. Like Donovan Mitchell against the Celtics. He had that one game where he had like 50 and they still lost because his teammates didn't really do anything. So Dallas bringing the ball up the floor. 5-point game. 10:40 to go in the fourth quarter. Kyrie Irving driving into the lane with a floater. His shot's a little bit short. Irving with an offensive rebound off the glass, and he misses again. Theo Harris, appreciates you for stopping by. He says, is the Nuggets window to win it all again closed? That's a great question. Obviously, they're not going to be able to win it this year because they're eliminated, but I don't know. They lost Bruce Brown. They lost Jeff Green. They had a great team, and they lost those guys this past season, and they didn't have them. And the problem with not having them is it made their bench depth worse. It put more pressure on the starters, and Gordon and Porter Jr. just didn't deliver as well. Gordon played pretty well in the last couple games, but Porter Jr. definitely did not deliver in the final series with the Timberwolves. So, I feel like they're either going to have more production from the guys they have, or they're going to have to make a good draft selection or two, or maybe make a trade and find a way to maybe get a backup big man Jokic so he doesn't have to play as many minutes. But something's got to give because the Nuggets, they weren't as good this past season. And there's a lot of competition right now with up-and-coming teams. It's going to be hard for them to do it again. But that's a great question. Appreciate you for being here. But you had a 2 from the Mavericks and then another jump shot from the Mavericks, this time Luka Doncic, and we're back to a one-point game. Dallas just isn't going away. 89-88, Conley driving into the lane. Minnesota needs a bucket. Nickeil Alexander-Walker off the mark with that triple. Hardaway Jr. with the rebound. It's been very quiet in this game and really throughout the playoffs, but a big rebound there. Doncic with the basketball for the Mavericks. He takes a 3. Step back and it's good. Dallas in front. 91-89, and Minnesota not liking what they are seeing calls timeout. Unbelievable. That's crazy. That is crazy right there. The Dallas Mavericks were down by 5. There was a TV timeout. Things were looking a little bit dire for them. I mean, it wasn't dire straits or anything, but it was not looking that good. And then now, just like that, Dallas back in front with a 2-point lead. Stephen Cherry says elite players take over 4 quarters. I mean, absolutely. I mean, you either have the it factor or you don't. You have to show up when it matters. Like right now, this is when Minnesota needs Anthony Edwards. And we know he's younger than Doncic and Irving. But if he truly is what people think that he is, and he's possibly the best player in the league, new Michael Jordan, he's got to show up here. Final 9 minutes of this game. Minnesota starting to cool off. And Dallas, they just keep coming at you. They do not stop. They don't quit. Just so impressive by Dallas. I mean, so many moments in this game, a lot of teams would have folded, but they're not folding. I mean, the big duo of Lively and Gafford is just good enough to neutralize the bigs for Minnesota somewhat. I mean, it's not going to stop them, and it hasn't, but it's also not allowing them to run rampant either. And then you have Luka Doncic and then Kyrie Irving. I mean, they're going to get theirs, and it's taken a lot of points from them, but they've gotten just enough. And if P.J. Washington can hit a couple big shots down the stretch, Derek Jones as well, who have both played very well in the playoffs so far for the Mavericks, that might be enough to give Dallas the victory. And if they do win, even though I picked Minnesota to win the series, I mean, obviously, one game, it's just one game. You cannot overreact from one game, but it's going to be very hard for Minnesota now because of the fact that with Minnesota, if they go down 1-0 and they played as well as they did for a lot of this game and knocking down all the threes that they did, it doesn't really bode well for the rest of the series because more than likely, I mean, they're not going to hit as many threes as they did tonight in many more games in this series, more than likely. And if that's the case, their defense is either going to have to step up or they're going to have to hope Dallas just doesn't play that well. So I don't know. I feel like I'm going in circles because of the fact, like, one minute I'm saying, oh, it looks like Minnesota's going to win, next minute Dallas, but that's just the swings of the game. I mean, this game's been all over the place. There's never really been a moment yet where it felt like one team was out of it. We got close there with Dallas, but then with that timeout, they just come right back at you and give you a 7-0 run. But you know Minnesota's probably going to respond, so they're definitely not out of this thing. But in the poll that I did on YouTube, 67% of you guys say T-Wolves, 33% Mavericks, 30 votes are in. I'm sure we might have a few more votes for the Mavericks if they keep this up. They keep playing well. They're showing some highlights right here. I mean, that was a really good mid-range jumper by Luka Doncic. And then Luka Doncic with another good step back. And then he hit that big 3. So Doncic helping out his teammate Irving. 9:07 to go in the fourth quarter. Doncic with 25 points, and he had that personal 7-0 run. Anthony Edwards kicks to Mike Conley, over to Karl Anthony Towns. Towns with the floater, and it's off the mark. Luka Doncic with the board to Derek Jones. Jones down the floor, and he gets the layup to fall. Lively almost touched the rim, but he did not. 9-0 run by the Mavericks. What a play by Derek Jones. Finally, somebody else scored other than Irving and Doncic. Edwards, he needs to step up. Minnesota down 4. You can tell the fans are getting a little antsy. In the corner, Jaden McDaniels. He turns the basketball over. He's looking for a foul. He's not going to get it. Doncic down the floor. Doncic to the rim. He misses, and Lively with the putback slam dunk. And now the Mavericks lead by 6. Where has this run come from? Dallas on an 11-0 run. Lively with 9 points, 10 boards. So impressive. You can really see the T-Wolves fans getting antsy. Anthony Edwards, under 8 to go. Kicks outside to Towns, and a turnover by the T-Wolves. Bad pass by Ant-Man. Trying to kick it out. Man, Dallas, man, just shot out of a cannon after that timeout. And nothing Minnesota's doing is stopping them right now. Another score here by Dallas. I could put Minnesota in a pickle. Luka Doncic. Doncic going up with it, and there's a foul. I think they just called a foul on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Things are just getting worse. 7:38 to go in the fourth. That might have been on Jaden McDaniels on that shot. Yeah, he did. I mean, he shouldn't have leaned in right there. That was a bad decision. I mean, you got to let Luka Doncic take the shot. I mean, even though he's on a roll and you don't want to give him free points, he's going to hit the free throws more than likely. Doncic with 25 points, 4 rebounds, and 8 assists. He's 10 of 23 from the field. Not having the best shooting night in the world, but he's still playing very well. First free throw is good. 7-point game. Anthony Edwards, he played really well early in this game, but he has gone cold. He's made some bad passes. I mean, his youth, he's still a young guy, but possibly being exposed here a little bit. He's got to get it together. If Anthony Edwards doesn't figure it out by the end of the game, Dallas is going to steal game 1. Doncic does knock down the second free throw, so it's an 8-point game. Largest lead for Dallas in the entire game. Edwards only has 13 points. That's just not good enough. Ant-Man, top of the key. Gets a screen from Gobert. Kicks to Conley. Mike Conley, nowhere to go with it. Dancing around. Kicks outside to Towns. Towns off the glass. Misses. Gobert to Jaden McDaniels. To Anthony Edwards for 3. And that gets the crowd on their feet. Anthony Edwards finally buries a triple. 97-92. 7 to go in the fourth. Doncic with the basketball. Gets a screen from Derek Jones. And a foul. I mean, Dallas, they're just driving the basketball into the teeth of the Minnesota Timberwolves defense, and they're going to the line, and they're making their free throws. It looks like Doncic has a little bit of blood on his leg. Hopefully he's okay. Stephen Cherry says Lively was an excellent draft pick by the Mavs. For sure. And, I mean, it worked, especially since they got Gafford now, and both those guys, none of them are like, with Lively being a rookie and Gafford not being like an elite center, neither of them like need to play like 40 minutes or anything. They can split the minutes. It's like a perfect situation. As long as Dallas can keep them both happy, then I feel like having that 2-center rotation of Gafford and Lively, it really works. It's an underrated center duo in the NBA. I agree. Fantastic pickup. And Lively, one of those players that had a lot of potential out of college that didn't score all that much, is translated. A lot of people talk about potential, and some of these guys don't translate. But in Lively's case, it has. Jackson says, if you love hot takes on college football, NFL, college basketball, and NBA, check out Only Talk Sports on these links at Twitter and Rumble. Really appreciate that, Jackson. Again, if you guys like to follow me on Twitter, would really appreciate it. Usually tweet a few times a day, and on Rumble as well, where I post my lives and my videos. Would definitely help out the channel over on Rumble. I'm at 50 Rumble followers. Appreciate all you guys over that have followed me on Rumble. But on YouTube, getting closer and closer to 3,000 subs. We're at 2,640 subs. Appreciate all you guys that have subbed the channel. Means so much, but definitely couldn't do it without all of you guys. Appreciate you, Jackson. But Dallas, 98, Minnesota 94, 4-point game. 6 to go in the fourth. Really good shot by Towns, though, with that step-back jumper. Towns has kind of disappeared for a while, but, I mean, he can get going in a hurry as well. He's a good offensive player when he wants to be. $6:15 to go in the fourth quarter, and Anthony Edwards with the basketball. He takes a three, and it's in and out. He had the shot, but he just could not get it to go. Up the floor, though, a steal by Anthony Edwards. Bad pass by the Mavericks. Can the T-Wolves capitalize? Ant-Man off the dribble. Kicks to Jaden McDaniels, and his shot's off the mark. Threes aren't falling as frequently for Minnesota as they were in the first half. They still had a few in the second half, but not at the same rate. Kyrie Irving off the dribble. Irving kicks in the corner to Derek Jones. Back to Kyrie. 5:30 to go in the fourth. Irving with a step back. His shot is a little bit short. And Cat with the rebound. To Mike Conley. 5:20 to go in the fourth. Minnesota's starting to get some momentum back. Towns to Gobert for the one-hand slam. 2-point game. You had the run by Dallas, and now Minnesota's making a run of their own, and the fans are back on their feet. That's a great pass by Cat to Gobert. The two-man game. P.J. Washington to Derek Jones for three. His shot's in and out. And Towns with the rebound. Conley with the ball up the floor. Minnesota can take the lead. Over to Anthony Edwards. 10 seconds on the shot clock. 4:45 to go in the fourth. Edwards with Irving on him. Over to Towns for a deep three. And Towns knocks it down from deep. 99-98. Timeout on the floor by the Dallas Mavericks. No field goals for Dallas in the over 3 minutes. Their offense is dried up. What a shot by Towns. That was a deep shot. Crazy. But we got 4:39 to go in this game. And I still just have no idea who's going to win. I picked Minnesota. I think they're going to win. You guys, in my poll on YouTube, believe the T-Wolves are going to win. But this thing could go either way as of now. It is a roller coaster. RC, appreciate another chat. A comment. He says, only talk sports this game, driving my soul nuts. I mean, how can it not? I mean, I know you're a fan of the T-Wolves. You want them to win, but I mean, this is crazy. Like 1 minute, you think Dallas has got the game, and the next minute, Minnesota's right back in it. RC says, OMG, only talk sports. I'm on the floor quivering and shaking from this game, man. I mean, that's what sports can do to you. This stuff, it's entertaining, man. These games, you can't beat it. I mean, we get to this point, and we got some good matchups, some fun games, and even though the season's almost over and it's going to be sad when it's done, you can always wait to next year, but then you get to reflect on what we've seen. These games are crazy. This game could end up being a classic. It could go all the way down to the final shot the way these two teams are playing right now. Mavericks, 26 points in the paint, and the Timberwolves plus 39 points from three. Who would have thought that coming into this game, that the T-Wolves, with all the bigs that they have, would be outscoring Dallas by 39 from the three-point line, but Dallas has outscored Minnesota 26 from two. That's unbelievable. Doncic kicks to Derek Jones. Derek Jones goes up with the shot, and it's off the mark. 4:10 to go in the fourth quarter. Mike Conley with the ball. T-Wolves lead by 1. The momentum is dried up for Dallas. Towns for three. It's off the mark. Man, it looked pure, but it did not fall. The crowd would have gone nuts if that had gone in. Irving trying to end the field goal drought for Dallas. They haven't scored in almost 4.5 minutes, and he can't end the drought. He misses the shot. Had a pretty good look. 3:40 to go in the fourth. Anthony Edwards off the dribble for three, and Anthony Edwards buries the triple. 102-98, Anthony Edwards has struggled for a vast majority of this game, but he's showing up when it matters the most. He's almost got a triple-double. 19 points, 10 boards, 8 assists. Irving down the floor. He misses the layup, but Lively saves it, kicks to Doncic. Step back three. Doncic knocks it down. 102-101. 3 to go in the fourth. Man, what an entertaining game this has been. What a shot by Doncic, but what a save by Derek Lively. Great offensive rebound. 2:50 to go in the fourth. Edwards dancing around. I think they call a foul on the floor. RC says, fun fact, of all 4 teams, the Mavericks are the last franchise left to have won a championship. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy that to think that the Boston Celtics, the last time they won was 2008. Mavericks won in 2011 with Dirk. And then, like, that's it. Like, the other ones, I mean, it's just nothing going right for them. I mean, it's wild. Like, Dallas, people talk about them needing a championship, but they're the ones that the most recent to win. It's crazy. Then they call another foul. 4 seconds on the shot clock, and the T-Wolves get bailed out there with a foul. Obviously, I don't think they're in the bonus yet, but that's a tough pill to swallow for the Mavericks. Not a good foul there. RC says, oh, it's a perimeter party and we're hosting the fun. Absolutely. The Target Center, it's a 3-point shootout, especially on the T-Wolves side. Edwards, 5 on the shot clock. Step back 3. It is a little bit off the mark, and Doncic almost had it, but it finally goes to Derek Jones. Mavericks got the ball. 2:20 to go in the fourth. Doncic has been heating up in this fourth quarter. He kicks to P.J. Washington. Off the dribble, P.J. Washington. He loses the basketball. Big turnover. Big mistake by P.J. Jaden McDaniels to Towns. Back to McDaniels. And he turns it over. Terrible play. Doncic with the ball. Kicks over to Kyrie to P.J. Washington in the corner. And he knocks down the 3. Big shot for P.J. Washington right after he made that big mistake on the turnover. And I said I felt P.J. Washington was going to hit a big shot down the stretch. And he does right there. 104-102. There's been a ton of lead changes in this game. And that's just effort. It just shows how hard both teams are playing. Both teams do not want to start this series off with a loss. Gobert to Mike Conley. Shoots a 3. It's off the mark. And then Towns with the putback. Oh, my goodness. Wait, are they going to say that's basket interference? Oh, they're going to have to review that. Conley, his 3 went in and out. And then Towns with the putback slam, but I don't know. That ball, the funny thing is, when it spinned off the rim, it looked like it was going further away, but then it kind of spinned back. Is that in the cylinder? I don't know. I have no idea. This is so close. Stephen Cherry says entertaining game. Absolutely. It has been a fantastic game, but Karl Anthony Towns is incredulous right now. He feels that the ball was not in the cylinder. But, I mean, the way that ball spinned, it kind of spinned its way back toward the cylinder. I don't know. It is so close. If they didn't give it to him live, though, off the replay, I don't know if they're going to give it to him. Well, I don't know what you think, RC. You say, I need an oxygen mask now. Do you think that's basket interference? Lawrence Rogers, appreciate you for being here. You say it's interference. I think it is too. It's so close, but I do think it's interference. That's just a tough break for Cat. I mean, what do you do there? Wow. Not going to give him the point. So Dallas has the basketball. Good call, Lawrence Rogers. Appreciate you again for being here. But we got 1:30 to go. Derek Lively to Luka Doncic. He kicks to Lively down low in the corner to Derek Jones. And then was he out of bounds? I think he stepped out. Unless there was an offensive foul there. I think it might have been, was it Lively? I don't know. Was it? I don't think it was a travel, was it? I don't know how that could be a travel because it looked like the Timberwolves impacted him a little bit on that play. I don't know. Man, this game, so much controversy right here. Can't have a great game without it, I guess. 1:10 to go in the fourth. In the corner, Jaden McDaniels to Conley. Off the dribble, he kicks to Gobert. Good defense by Dallas. Oh, my goodness. 1:03 to go in the fourth quarter. I think, do we have a timeout on the floor? I think we might have a timeout on the floor. RC says, only tough spot I'm calling this game 7, not game 1, because that's how it's being played. I don't think these teams know no better. I mean, can we get a better game out of this series than this one? I mean, who knows? You never say never, but this has been an unbelievable game. Usually game 1s aren't this good. I mean, we had Boston and Indiana go to overtime. That was an unreal game, and this one's been unreal. Hopefully all these games in both these series will be great. I hope they all go down the wire. It's been fantastic. RC says it kind of was interference, unfortunately. I agree. It was still in the cylinder. RC says, time to watch with my hands over my eyes. It's so funny. I used to do that a lot more when I was younger. I put my hands over my eyes. But, like, at the end of the day, like, if you're covering your eyes, it's not going to change anything. You're not going to influence the game whether you got your hands covering your eyes or not. But it's just so tempting, though. You just feel like maybe if you hide your eyes and you don't see it, like something good's going to happen. I feel you. I've done it before. Lawrence Rogers says it's so close, but I feel like the Mavs are more clutch, have more clutch players. I agree. I mean, Anthony Edwards is pretty clutch, but I mean, you got Luka and Kyrie on Dallas. I mean, I picked Minnesota to win the series because they've been playing so well on defense, but maybe in hindsight, maybe Dallas is the pick. Maybe they're the team. I don't know. I really don't know. Melanie, Axley, appreciate again for being here. Says Minnesota has game winner potential here. We'll see. They're going to have to get a stop because Dallas is up by 2 and they have the ball. They need a stop right here. Luka Doncic with the ball being guarded by Jaden McDaniels has that mismatch, I believe, in that matchup. Doncic down the floor, step back 2, and he knocks it down. Like you said, Lawrence Rogers, clutch players. What a clutch shot from Luka Doncic. Minnesota needs a bucket right here or they might be toast. 106-102. Towns for 3. It's off the mark. Doncic with the rebound. 30 seconds to go. Are they going to foul? They're not fouling yet, so they might have to wait, but will that be too much time off the clock? 25 seconds left. Derek Lively to Irving. Irving down the floor. Shots off the mark. Edwards with the rebound. And I think we have a timeout. We have a timeout on the floor. 17 seconds left. Minnesota basketball. So Minnesota down by 4. They're going to get the ball across the half-court line. I don't know. It looks like they might be done. Melanie's already calling it Mavs dub. Lawrence Rogers says love Cat, but he's not that guy. A lot of people feel that way. I mean, you can't really – I can't disagree. You can't really say anything but. Towns is a good player, but he doesn't really have that clutch gene. And he's not like one of the best bigs in the NBA. He's a good player. And at times can be a great player, but he just isn't that guy. I agree. Stephen Cherry said, this is why I picked the Mavs. They have 2 elite players. Man, maybe, like I said, maybe in hindsight, I was wrong. I mean, I had a lot of people in my reply section of that video that I made about picking who was going to win these series. A lot of Mavs fans were like, you're wrong picking the T-Wolves. Like, we're going to win the series. I mean, maybe they're right. I mean, T-Wolves are good. I still think they have a shot to win the series even if they lose this game, but this is a bad way to start the series out. Losing at home. RC says Cat didn't need to shoot that. I've said that 7 or 8 times now. Only talk sports as a Wolves fan throughout Cat's career. Yeah, he takes bad shots at times. I've watched a lot of games where Towns shoots bad shots. I agree. I mean, it's a recurring problem. Did they have to use another timeout? The Dallas Mavericks just forced Minnesota to use their final timeout. Kyle Anderson could not get the ball in bounds, and that is absolutely abysmal because if Minnesota had have scored on this possession, like a 2 or a 3, and then Dallas, especially if it was a 3, that'd been great, been down by 1, and then if Dallas, they have to foul, hit both free throws, then Minnesota could have used that last timeout to get the ball across half court. But now that they've just used that timeout, Minnesota has to score on this possession, and then after Dallas is going to go to the line, Minnesota's not going to get the ball past half court. That's awful. They had to get the ball in bounds there, and they couldn't even do it. So Dallas giving Minnesota a little taste of their medicine, man, their own medicine, with this excellent defense. That's wild. That is wild. Minnesota couldn't even get the ball in bounds. It's very rare for an NBA team to struggle to get the ball in bounds. With all the athletes out there, usually you can find somebody to get the ball in bounds too, but they couldn't do it. Just burn that timeout, and that burning of the timeout might end up costing them the game completely. They have to score on this possession, though. Can't miss. If they miss, it's over. Kyle Anderson's still the inbounder. You got to do your job, man. You got to get the ball to somebody, and somebody's got to get open if you're Minnesota. Anderson kicks to Towns. Oh, man, that was almost over and back. I'm surprised they didn't call that. Towns shoots another bad 3, but then Naz Reid with the putback. That was a terrible shot by Towns. I get you're running out of time, but he almost hit it. But Naz Reid saving the game with that putback. P.J. Washington, you can't chuck it down the floor. And thankfully for Dallas, Derek Jones gets it. And now a foul. Looks like Irving's going to the line. But that was a dangerous pass by P.J. Washington. But lucky for him, it did not result in a turnover. But that was almost very dangerous. Anthony Edwards, though, kicking it to Towns, man. And Towns, that was a bad shot. But he almost hit it. But you just can't shoot that right there. Man, if he hits it, then everybody's going to be saying great things about Towns, but I don't know. 7 seconds left. And Kyrie Irving's at the line for 2 free throws. If he hits both of these, then it's over. It's 107-104. He hit the first. Man, that was a clutch catch by Derek Jones. Very dangerous pass from P.J. Washington. If Irving hits this second free throw, it should be all she wrote. It looks like Dallas is going to have it because then Minnesota's going to have to bring the ball up the floor instead of getting it across half court. Irving has 29. Doncic with over 30. Started out with Irving, but then Doncic finished it off. And Irving's second free throw, it's good as well. That should be the game. 4-point lead for Dallas. 7 seconds to go. What a performance by the Mavericks down the stretch. Towns kicking to Edwards. To Conley. Conley shoots a 3 and a foul. Oh, my goodness. The one thing you cannot do if you're the Dallas Mavericks, you cannot foul. Why in the world would you foul right there? What a horrible decision by Josh Green. Josh Green. My goodness, man. Plays like that are what get you benched and get you where you don't play, man. That's terrible. You can't foul right there. Just let him shoot it. Let him shoot it. It doesn't matter if he hits it. There's like 1 second left. Like the odds of Minnesota doing anything anyway is like nil. That's just a very bad foul by Josh Green. I think they're looking to see if it's a 3 or a 2. It looks like it's a 3, but from that angle, it's kind of hard to tell. I just can't believe he fouled right there. That is just such a terrible decision. There's no reason in the world to foul in that spot. I think it's a 3. It looks like his foot, there's a sliver of lighter wood between the blue line, between Conley's foot and the line. I think it's a 3. RC says, why does it feel like we lost at the buzzer? Even though it wasn't like a buzzer beater, I get your point because of the fact that the game's been so highly contested and like Minnesota led for the vast majority of this fourth quarter and then it just got ripped away from them. I get it. It definitely feels like it. RC says, well, it never gets easier. Each round never gets easier. For sure. I mean, the teams that you're facing, they get better. And Dallas, they're no slouch. I mean, that's why, like, even though I picked Minnesota to win the series, I said it's going to 7. And I mean, Dallas might end up winning it. You never know. Dallas, this was a gutsy performance, but Josh Green with a big mistake there, fouling Mike Conley. I mean, things can get weird. If Conley hits the first 2 free throws here, and then you never know, he misses it on purpose, we've seen weirder things. That's why you don't foul in that situation. You don't give them the opportunity. You just don't give them the opportunity. Conley's only got 5 points, but he is a good free throw shooter. His first one's good. 108, 105. It's got to hit the second one and then miss the third one. Conley's second free throw, it's off the mark. So Conley did the worst thing you could do. He missed the second free throw, so now he's going to have to miss the third one on purpose and hope they tap it out for a 3, which is much more unlikely than if you hit the first 2 and then miss the last one and just do a putback 2. That makes this almost impossible. Conley had to hit that one. My goodness. 1.8 seconds to go, and that's all Minnesota has for a possible tap out. He misses the last one, and that's it. Irving dribbles it out, and the Mavericks are your winner. They win game 1 on the road at Minnesota as an underdog. What a performance by Doncic and Irving. Unbelievable. Anthony Edwards, I mean, he made some good shots down the stretch, but Anthony Edwards just didn't show up consistently. And he's going to have to do better down the stretch of this series if Minnesota's going to have a shot to win it. RC says, you know what, only talk sport, we don't do nothing easy. Time to get the shovel then and dig real deep once again and dig out of this loss. Must overcome. I mean, it's one game. It's one loss. It's not over. Definitely not over. I mean, you talk about the Nuggets. They went down 2-0 against the Timberwolves, and they came back and almost won the series. They tried. They just didn't get it done. But it's not over yet. It's just going to make it harder on Minnesota, but they still could come back. Stephen Cherry says, excellent show, Jeffrey. I appreciate that, Stephen Cherry. Appreciate you for being here as well. Always like seeing you in the chat. This was a very fun game to commentate. I love these type of games. This was a thriller. Both teams gave their heart outs, but unfortunately, at the end of the day, Minnesota fell short. For RC, it's tough for him, but for the Mavericks fans out there, a great win. Appreciate you for being here. He says it's going to 7 for sure. Yeah, I mean, I still think it will. I know some people say that now this is going to make it where Dallas will win in 6, but it still could go to 7. Theo Harris, appreciate you again for being here. He says, who do you think is the favorite to win the NCAA chip in college basketball next year? That's a great question. I mean, definitely my mind's on NBA right now, but quickly on that, college basketball, I mean, UConn, a lot of people wonder if they get 3P. I don't think their team's as good. It's going to be very hard for them to 3P, but with Dan Hurley and type of coach he is, builds good rosters, you never know. I think Kansas, they're preseason number 1. Bill Self's, built a fantastic roster. I mean, losing Riley Kugel after it looked like he was going to Kansas, but then he didn't have, the academic requirements or whatever. That's tough. But with Dickinson back, got A.J. Storr, DeJuan Harris is back. I mean, that's a solid-looking team. Some people would say Houston maybe. But, I mean, I think Kansas is the favorite preseason. Now, do I think they're going to win it all? I mean, you have no clue, but they're the preseason number 1 team. So, usually the preseason number 1 team ends up being, they're the preseason favorite to win it all. It kind of goes hand in hand. They're not going to rank you number 1 if you're not the preseason favorite. So even though I don't think possibly like Kansas, maybe they're the team to win it all because I have no idea right now because it's too early to tell, I would say Kansas is the preseason favorite as of now. RC says, thank you for the stream. I appreciate you for being our RC a lot. You're very welcome. It was a lot of fun to do. Glad I got to do your T-Wolves again. They've been coming on in a time slot that's been very beneficial for me to do. So hopefully be able to do another Timberwolves stream if I can. And then he says, game 2 is a must win. Would you say only top sport for us? Absolutely. I mean, the Nuggets went down 2-0. and they couldn't come back. They almost did against the Timberwolves, but they still couldn't come back. I would say Minnesota has to win game 2. I don't think it would be very hard for them to go on the road and win 2 games at Dallas. Is it impossible? No, but I would say that it's not very likely. Theo Harris says, fun stream. Can't wait for the next. I really appreciate the compliment, guys. You guys are the best. I definitely will have more streams coming up and hope to see you guys there as well. You guys make these streams a lot of fun. But thanks, everybody, for being here tonight. Appreciate the compliments. Appreciate the super chat from Jeff as well. Really helps out the channel. Appreciate that a lot. But definitely like the stream down below if you had fun watching the stream. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Definitely helps the channel, and share the stream out on social media. But I appreciate everybody for being here. The Dallas Mavericks, even though I picked the T-Wolves, they just knocked off T-Wolves in game 1, playing really well. We'll see if they can keep it up, but I can't wait to see what happens with the Eastern Conference Finals and the Western Conference Finals as we start wrapping up this NBA season to see who's going to win it all. It should be a lot of fun. Can't wait for it, but thanks for being here, everybody. It was a fantastic game, a fantastic stream, and can't wait for the next few games coming up, and I will be back for a stream coming up soon. Thanks for being here, everybody.